Hawk Performance packs 100 years of friction dynamics into every product. Backed by Carlisle Brake and Friction, the world's premier innovator of industrial brake and friction components, Hawk leverages R&D tools and motorsports experience to deliver uncompromising performance on the street. There's no reason to settle for less. Choose pads that are race-proven and street-legal. Find the Hawk Performance brake dealer near you at hawkperformance.com.
An important decision is afoot. This man is about to buy tires on TireRack.com. Tire Rack is the leading online retailer of tires in North America and a repository of advice and expert reviews. And it's done! All that's left is to arrange for safe, easy installation at one of our independent recommended installers. Well, I guess he did that too. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
Welcome to Road Atlanta, one of the most fearsome roller coasters you will ever see on the circuit. We are ready to handle this 2.5-mile circuit for SVRA 5A, 7, 9, 11, and PSSA. But before we can get into all of that action, we get to be joined by the one and only Ben Sissel, who's down for a grid walk.
Well, welcome back. Here we are. This is kind of a grid walk at the Mission Foods Road Atlanta Speed Tour with the SVRA Group 5A, 7, 9, 11, and Prototype Sprint Series Association. We're looking right now at Marco Sansetti's beautiful PS1/P. Unbelievable Revolution car. This is a PSSA Prototype Sprint Series Association car. But I want to come up here and talk to Nolan Aller here, who qualified first. Nolan is in his grandpa, Lewis Cooper Jr.'s car. Beautiful, but this car, of any other vintage car, and your grandpa runs with us quite a bit, this might make the most beautiful music that we have. It just sounds unbelievable. Is it that much fun to drive as well?
Oh, it's incredible. I actually just talked to my grandpa. I'm a little bit disappointed that I'm driving it because I don't get to hear it from the outside and see what it can do. But it's just absolutely incredible. It's unlike anything I've ever driven.
What kind of G-forces is this car putting down around Road Atlanta?
We pull over 4 Gs on the brakes and then around 4 Gs through the corners, especially turn 1. That's the most loaded. It's incredible.
And then the downforce. Just, you know, I know this car is a pretty high downforce. What other kind of cars have you driven that are similar to this?
So I'm actually racing in the Indy Next by Firestone series right now with HMD Motorsports. So I've driven, that would be the closest car to this, but it's nothing compared to it. This car, you know, they make jokes about how cars could drive upside down. This one could do it quite easily.
That's awesome. So hopefully our cameraman will be able to get good shots of this, and then you got to hear the audio. So Nolan, thanks for being here, man. That's awesome. Lewis Cooper, thank you for bringing this car out there with RM Motorsports. And let's talk to Mr. Bennett here. So, Mr. Bennett, you guys always bring some crazy cars, but this might be one of the craziest.
Yeah, this is a really fast car, and you know, Nolan's granddad normally drives at Lewis, and he does a pretty darn good job in it. It's really cool to see Nolan get in the car and be up to speed right away.
I love it. Well, Mr. Bennett, thank you very much with RM Motors. Then we've got over here, so this is kind of a crazy group here. So this is Harbir Das over here in an F4. Unbelievable. So you're out here with a crazy group of cars. Are you having fun?
Oh yeah, I'm having a blast.
Nice. And now, this is the F4, just like in our F4 series. But this year, Ligier has come out with a new chassis, so this would qualify in our JSF4. But so cool to have this out here, the number 42, powered by Honda with the hand-cooked tires. But then let's go through some of these PSSA cars. So this is a Revolution there, the 65 that we've shown. And this is a Sebico here. And the coolest thing about this group of cars is they're running their own championship within the PSSA championship. Some beautiful cars, some unbelievable trophies as they come through. So you can see the center seat car. These cars, all these PSSA cars kind of always look to me like they're about 20 years in the future. So this is the Sebico. Then if we come over here, we're going to see, I think, the Radical. So this is the Radical here. Trying to get my notes right. So that's Raiden Nicole. And this all kind of started with this Radical here. So the gentleman that first produced the Radicals, I think he sold the company, and then he started building these Revolutions. You can see the Revolutions are a little bit wider. In my opinion, a little bit more Batmobile-y, if that's a new adjective that I can invent right now on the spot. But really cool to see. So we've got the Radical, we've got the Revolutions, we've got the Sebecos, we've got Wolves. Then if we move up here a little bit, Judd Miller was our runner-up in the championship last year. I'm going to come around if you don't mind, Judd. But Judd, you're kind of one of the, OGs of this PSSA. Second last year in the standings. What's your plan to get on the top step of the championship this season?
Well, that's going to be a tough task. I got some really fast guys in front of me, but I'm really happy to be back here at Road Atlanta. It's been a couple years. I just love this track. I'm just going to do the best that I can do and see where it plays out.
Nice, I love it. But we got to get a shot of this livery. He always wears the red, white, and blue, sometimes in different ways, but it's unbelievable. Then we got to show this thing up here, Tony. I'm sorry, I'm running you all over the place, but this is so cool, and we got to mention this. So Jim Downing up here in this kudzu rotary engine. Look at this huge trap right here. The car sounds so good, and this is so cool, but I have to show you something, because Jim Downing, this is an innovator. So if you see right here, see this thing he's wearing? That's the Hans device that Jim Downing, the man right here behind the wheel, was a part of the innovation, the invention, and he was a part of the team that made the Hans device that has saved countless lives in motorsports since the inception of the Hans device. And then this car here, I believe, is the car that he won the 24-hour Le Mans in, or maybe Daytona. I'm forgetting, and I can't ask him because this rotary engine is just way too loud. But that is Jim Downing, a beautiful car. And leave a comment on our comment section if you know what that says. So we'll get back to some of these PSSA cars. The Prototype Sprint Series Association, presented by Hankook Tires. You'll see that they're all wearing the Hankook tires. I love these cars. They were with us last year at Sonoma Laguna Seca, but some beautiful cars out there. This is Zach Mosley with the Classic Car Club. You can see him wearing it across his chin, I believe from the state of New York, in these Revolution cars. But so cool to have them out here. I'm loving it. And then we've got a lot of Sebecos over there on that side in their own championship. It looks like we have one lone S2000 of Steve Conson up there in that number 10 Swift. As we come up, so there's the Sebeco. Beautiful, the 9-4 Motorsports, the number 84. That's Clay Keel. And then we'll move up. That's the 97 of Russell Allen. Looks like he's got the Mazda power. Oh, we have another S2 coming down here, so that's good. This is the number 50 of Madison Prince. That's the 15 of Wade Leathers. And then if we come up here, the 10, Steve Conson here. Steve was running a couple of cars this weekend. He had a little bit of a problem and a fire with his other car. But Steve, you're out here. This is a crazy group, a group like no other that we run in vintage racing. How's it feel out there so far?
It's going to get interesting. I'll be watching my mirrors a lot, and just pull my line. And I was out this morning, and they were really great to run with. So we'll see how it goes this afternoon.
Nice, I love it. Steve Conson races all kinds of different cars here with us. Usually in some really cool MGs, and then a Merlin. He's with us this weekend, but out here in this S2, just really unbelievable. And then you can see this here. This is just, I love the lines of these cars. The Prototype Sprint Series Association. And what I love about the drivers, they're all giving us thumbs up. They seem like they're happy to be here, having a lot of fun. So it's so cool to have them. We've got another Revolution over there with Gary Gray. We're going to say that name a lot because we're going to see him moving up through the field in PSSA. I don't have a 456 on my grid sheet, but I'm sure he belongs out there. So this is the NPO1. And then I'll come over here just to this last Revolution over here of Gary Gray. You do have I hear that we have a translation on that Japanese. I love it. So here is the Radical here of Gary Gray. So we've got, 3 or 4 different manufacturers competing here in the PSSA, Prototype Sprint Series Association, presented by Hankook Tires. And then we've got some S2s. Fast Race. I'm hearing from the producers. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. We've got some knowledge in our booth. So Fast Race up there on that kudzu. But it looks like they're about to fire up. Chelsea Miller, our grid chief, is giving them the signals. So, ladies and gentlemen, well, hold on. What in the world is this? The 07 Jacek Muka. Jacek was with us earlier this year. That's the Jacek Muka in that Group 11 GTP2. And I heard from our announcers that this was a car that just raced at Daytona and Sebring, but it has been detuned a little bit for reliability. But Jacek Muka, always really fast. We saw him in the Cadillac at Sebring just a couple of weeks ago. But you know what? It's getting a little bit loud down here and a little bit hot, so I'm going to send it back up to you gentlemen up in the booth, and I'll meet you there in a little bit.
Well, thank you so much, Ben Sissel, down on the grid, giving us all of that information. Absolutely fantastic to be able to see all of these cars. Again, my name is DJ Clark, lucky enough to be able to be joined up here in the booth by Mr. Miles. And looking at these cars, I mean, there is so much just fantastic history and fantastic modern history in these cars.
Absolutely, yeah. Bunch of different manufacturers all coming together to make one great show for the fans here at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, it's going to put on a great show. And when we talk about Road Atlanta, I mean, this is exactly the kind of motorsport that you want to see here at a circuit like this. Downforce obviously available in droves in all of these prototype, semi-prototype machines as they come out onto the track. You're able to take a little bit more through turn 1, push it a little bit more coming down through the Cube 3S's. You're really able to have some fun with these cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some of these drivers, getting used to the downforce is part of the learning curve. A lot of these drivers have come from sedan cars or cars that don't develop downforce, and as you get these cars going faster, they stick more and more. So, yeah, once they cross over that boundary into the downforce, then you really see them move in the corners.
Yeah, they certainly do. And as we saw on the grid, our pole sitter here, Nolan Allaire, kind of the marquee driver out at this point, racing out in that SVRA Class 9 field, doing a little bit of back and forth in Indy Next as well, so no stranger to downforce there for him. But why don't we go through, because we do have several different types of classes here for PSSA, and for those who aren't necessarily familiar, who are tuning in with us on SVRA, why don't you walk us through what those class differences are?
Yeah, so we have the basic classes are PS1, PS2, and PS3. The PS3 class was created for the Sebeco cars. It also, the Radical with a 1340cc engine runs in the PS3 class. The PS2 class would be the Revolution 427, naturally aspirated, the 1500 Radicals, and then also the Sebeco new car, the SPX, that runs in PS2, and you'll see Ben Cooper out there in the factory, white and black Sebeco in PS2. And then PS1 would be all the highest power cars, the Revolution 500, the Radical SR10, the LMP3 cars. Unfortunately, we lost Michael Schmidt earlier in the weekend with some transmission issues. But and then in some races we have a PS1P where Marco Cincetti runs, and he's a pro driver, so we want to leave this championship open to the gentleman drivers and the amateurs. And so when a pro driver comes in, we mark them as PS1P so they don't affect the championship for the rest of the drivers. So that's basic rundown of the classes for PSSA.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic to be able to have here, Jason, and I love the fact that we have that place for gentlemen drivers to be able to come out, because that is such a crucial part of motorsport, having that bronze driver, gentleman driver, whatever you want to call them. It is part of the very fabric of grassroots racing, and to be able to see that honored here with PSSA, it's very much what SVRA is all about, and I love seeing the team up here that we're able to get with the two of them.
Yeah, for sure, and a lot of these cars, once you get into the PS1 class, a lot of these drivers, Judd Miller, Zach Mosley, Mark Russell, these guys are utilizing driver coaches, and so to have them be able to come out, run part of the enduro, but not affect the championship, it gives the coaches a chance to get in the car and get into some races too, not just the practice sessions on earlier in the weekend. So yeah, great.
Yeah, and having those driver coaches really, really crucial, especially around a track like Road Atlanta. We talked a lot about over some of the previous broadcasts of the day of just how difficult of a track this is, and it's not necessarily because of the elevation change and the physical load that goes through your body, although that is very, very crucial. I think the biggest thing around here is, and we talked about this earlier with the downforce cars that we are running, is the level of commitment that you have to do. You cannot be cowardly in the way that you attack these corners. You've got to chuck these cars in.
Absolutely, yeah. The commitment coming down the hill into turn 12, that in most of these PS1 cars, you can hold that flat, but to do that, you really, it's a lot of commitment, and there's a lot of risk there if something goes wrong. And definitely looking at data over the weekend with some of these drivers, with their driver coaches. For example, Mark Russell picked up over a second just by looking at some data and just working on a couple corners. So these driver coaches are key to these drivers' success and them having fun out there.
Yeah, and those driver coaches, those are really going to be the ones that allow them to be able to get themselves into a good position. They're going to be the ones that tell them it's okay. You can take that car a little bit farther, because the human brain naturally wants to go, no, I can't do that. I can't do it. And so those driver coaches are going to be able to be there, as well as you said, break down that telemetry. Go through those little details that it needs to be done in order to create a full racing driver, and that's where those driver coaches are so invaluable, especially in these high-powered, high-downforce machines such as this.
Yeah, it's not like there's a light on the dash that tells you to go flat now.
I wish there was. That'd make my life so much easier if I could get into it. We need to come up with that and be able to do it. And as I learned the very hard way, coming from a sim racing background, there's not that little, red and green thing on the track that tells you where to go. You got to kind of figure it out yourself.
Yeah, no driving line.
No,
yeah.
that was a little bit of a rude awakening for me when I first figured that out. But nevertheless, we're ready here for about a 30-minute session for these drivers. They're going to push themselves out, coming out of the second grid, led around by our fantastic Ginetta pace car that is being used here over the course of the entire weekend. So very thankful there to them for giving us that wonderful, wonderful machine. And while we talk here about this Road Atlanta circuit, we keep talking about it, but it really is a bit of everything. A couple of great overtaking opportunities. We watched the Cube 3 Architecture TA2 series not too long ago, really talking about how turn 10A and 10B, Bennett Bridge Hall turn 10A and 10B were really the primary overtaking opportunities there. We saw a couple of passes down into Mission Foods turn 1, but with these downforce cars, it opens up the track more. You're able to take more lines across the entire field, and so that means that there are expanded overtaking zones. We may see some drivers get a little more aggressive into turn 5 because you can carry more speed down through the Cube 3S's and in through the treacherous turn 5.
Yeah, 5, 6, 10A. You'll even see some passes through turn 12 likely during this race. But yeah, it's the level of commitment and trying to stay off those curbs that get a little slippery and but they're there if you want to use them.
Well, that is going to send us to a quick commercial break before we get back to racing. Stay with us, and we will be back in just a few minutes.
Hungry for SVRA action? Well, the best way to enjoy classic auto racing is with a delicious classic from Mission Foods. Green flag your race-watching snacks with Mission's mouth-watering race day recipes. Try some of our tasty tacos, piled high nachos, fresh chips with guac, and more. So gear up your ride and fuel up those stomachs with delicious Mission Foods. Now that's too fast, too tasty.
The Mission Foods Laguna Seca Speed Tour returns to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, May 3rd through the 5th, featuring the Trans Am Series presented by Pirelli Western Championship, the Sportscar Vintage Racing Association, PSSA International GT, Historic Trans Am, Toyo Tires 2.5 Challenge, Optima Ultimate Streetcar, and Saturday you can take part in the Haggerty Cars and Caffeine Car Show. You do not want to miss the Mission Foods Laguna Seca Speed Tour, May 3rd through the 5th. For tickets, simply go to WeatherTechRaceway.com.
And welcome back to Road Atlanta as we get ready to roll off here for SVRA Group 5A, 7, 9, 11, and PSSA action. Looking down on the grid there is our wonderful tech officials and pit lane officials getting through the last couple of checks here at this point. We did have a race before this, so we think that there's a little bit going on there with that, just making sure that this track is absolutely perfect. And we've got to say here, yes, it's a little overcast. It's not perfect in terms of, that 76 degrees Southern California sunshine that I'm used to. But I got to say, with the forecast that we saw coming into this weekend here, I am so thankful that we've got clean racetrack. We don't have to be messing with any of this rain here that could potentially scare us out. Everything worked out pretty darn well for this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad the weather moved through, and for the PSSA guys, this is the third round of the season, and we were down in the 30s at Eagles Canyon up in Decatur, Texas, and Thunder Hill in California was not much warmer, in the high 40s, low 50s, so I think they'll take whatever's out there right now, 60-something degrees, and clear track, and no rain.
Yeah, no rain, and obviously two great racing circuits to be able to go to. And on behalf of California, we're sorry for the weather. We don't know what's going on this year. There's been a lot of rain. There's been a lot of cold, and none of us are happy about it. So we're still trying to figure out exactly what's going on there with California weather. But as we continue to just wait here for the official rollout at this point, again, DJ Clark up here in the commentary booth alongside Jason Miles. And we get looking down through this order, and for fans, as we say that, the sun comes out. There we go. We get a nice little bit of sunshine on the raceway. But, Jason, what should a casual viewer, maybe somebody who hasn't been able to tune into a PSSA race before, who should they be watching for? Who's going to be the exciting part of the day?
Well, at the front, you've got, for PSSA, Marco Cincetti, factory driver for Revolution, 1:19.5. That's a blistering lap around here. And Raiden Nickel, hometown guy, runs here a lot. They're based out of Primal Racing at Atlanta Motorsports Park, and he is fast. So I can see those two duking it out at the front. Judd Miller's always in the mix. And I want to see Jacek in that Cadillac, see if he can bring that up the field. That has a 1:08 time around this track with in IMSA. So and there's just all throughout the field, there's going to be battles. The Sebecos, a lot of those guys, they, like you said, running their own championship throughout the in the PSSA. So we're going to see that car count grow a lot.
Yeah, and as you were telling me a little bit before air, so wonderful to see that car count grow in PSSA, that it has just continued to frankly exponentially grow over the years. And I think that is indicative of not only just grassroots motorsports, but motorsports as a whole, of seeing a wonderful windfall in terms of motorsports across the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And these PSSA cars, they're not a typical race car culture where they're all in one spot or they all go to the same series. These cars are scattered across the country in country clubs, and to get them all going in the same direction is definitely taking a lot of work, but you can feel the groundswell this weekend with the number of cars. We're over double the field we were last year here at Road Atlanta, and And as we get into the later part of the season, Road America, Virginia, and COTA, it's going to be fantastic.
It's going to be absolutely fantastic to see. And we've got the best thing to see here, which is cars rolling off of the grid here at this point, bringing their way out onto the circuit behind that Ginetta safety car at this point. So that is going to be bringing everyone out right now. We will be getting our way out and around very quickly, as it is looking like it is going to be Cincetti that leads the way. I'm not sure why Nolan Allaire is not going to be marked there on my timing and scoring, but I think you are right. That battle right at the front between Nickel and Cincetti, that is going to be the battle that I'm going to keep my eye on up in that PSSA category. I think some of the other drivers to certainly watch out for farther back down when we talk about the SVRA competition here, bringing their way out. We have the Group 11 GTP2 entries there. We've got Michael Schmitz, who obviously had the problem earlier on, but Musa that we talked about earlier in that Cadillac Daytona prototype, as well as the Radical SR8. Those two didn't qualify all that far away from each other, and I think that could potentially be a fun little battle to see over the course of this race.
Yeah, for sure. And it's nice to see that the more senior drivers, Gary Gray, Jim Downing, out there, they're loving the competition with these young, fast prototypes, and they're welcoming it. So that just adds to the field.
Yeah, and adding to that field across the board. We also have two Swift entries out there with Wade Leathers and Steve Conson, and they're going to be starting down farther in the field, it should be said, in around 17th and 18th position, but they qualified right next to each other. A little bit of a gap in between them as they ran. The best overall time there, separated by about 3 seconds or so, but love to see those two Swifts coming together and them coming out onto the grid. That could be a lot of fun to see, but here we go, coming down that back straightaway as they make their way around. The lights are out on the Ginetta safety car, which means we will be able to go racing this time by as they make their way down into the Bennett Bridge Hall Turn 10 complex, bringing their way along through. Nolan Allaire bringing his way up through the only Group 9 entry, the second Group 9 entry in the field. Nathan Bird farther back in there as well. He's in the JDR Anomaly. Meanwhile, Allaire going to be in that Panos DPO1. As here they come forming up, coming down into the start zone, looking towards the flag as there goes the green, and we are racing here for SVRA and PSSA, and it is almost 4 wide at the start of the field. I think that was Raiden Nickel trying to get a little bit of a jump on it, and now we're side by side with Cincetti and Nickel diving into turn 1. They're going to try to keep the motion up here at this point, as there you see climbing up the hill. It continues to be Allaire leading at the moment. And right now, as they try to hold themselves out, Raiden Nickel being very, very aggressive at the start. And I think that proved him out well. It looked like he wanted to take there a look at that Panos machine driven by the Indy Next star Nolan Allaire. Didn't quite make it work, but look at him starting to scamper off there. There as he goes, diving down into the corners right now of 6 and 7. That Radical S10 with Nickel behind the wheel. That is how you get a race start done.
Yeah, he got a great start jumping out to the right there. He almost passed Nolan at the start, and it looked like back and forth a little bit through the S's, but he was able to hold off Cincetti.
Yeah, able to hold off Cincetti, and even with these downforce cars, going too wide down through the S's is never a good idea, so I'm glad to see that that didn't happen. We take a look here at Cincetti as that number 65 Revolution Black Machine works its way on through, and I've got to agree with what Ben Sissel said. That Panos DPO1 may be one of the best sounding cars I have heard out here this weekend. It is absolutely fantastic. They're continuing to work their way on through the number 500 of Judd Miller there in that patriotic scheme, working his way through. That's in that PS1 class Revolution 500 SC.
Yeah, Judd Miller out of Katy, Texas. Driven over the last few years Radical and Revolution cars, and Ben Sissel called him the OG, and he definitely is. He's been here a number of times, and he's a fast guy around here, so look for him to move up.
Yeah, certainly knows his stuff and has done so much over the course of racing. That is the number 95 that you see there behind. That's going to be Zach Mosley. And now as we look, there is that Cadillac DPI that we talked about. on home turf, let us say. It's exactly where it wants to be, that 07 with Musa, the Cadillac Daytona prototype, the black and blue machine. Absolutely fantastic. And speaking of great engine noises, I mean, whether we talk about the modern GTPs or indeed that Daytona prototype, Cadillac just has a way of making an engine sound perfect.
Absolutely. Yep. Between that and the Judd V10 in Nolan's car, beautiful noises.
Absolutely beautiful noises. A little bit side by side, farther back in the field here. Here comes that wonderful liveried machine in the engine there that we had talked about a little bit earlier in the number 20. That's Jim Downing being able to make a move coming down into Bennett Bridge Hall turn 10A and 10B. Pretty textbook of a move to get it done. And that rotary engine starting to flex its muscle here as they run.
Yeah, it looks like he's catching up to Mark Russell here in the other classic car, Revolution.
Yeah, he really caught up there, as a matter of fact. Downing looked like he was going to be a little bit farther back, and I would have anticipated that there would have been a bigger gap in between the two as they run, as they continue to go right now, working their way out and on through. Downing going to bring his way down through the S's, starting to close on in here at this point, trying to put a little bit of pressure to the back of Mark Russell in that number 55 Revolution 500.
Yeah, it looks like we might have a yellow there coming between turn 5 and turn 6. I don't know if that's just hanging out of the stand, but I'm not sure. But yeah, and that's the great thing with the PSSA, with different levels of drivers out there, and always somebody to battle with.
Yeah, and it looks like we are going to go full course yellow here at this point, as you see that popping up across your screen. Full course yellow in the SVRA Groups 5A, 7, 9, and 11, and PSSA race. And so, as you said, looked like that was around the turn 5 area. Of course, yellow displayed, and a little bit unfortunate here as we were kind of shaping into a fun little battle there between Russell and Downing. But I think that battle will resume as things go, and as we see Russell's streak on by, very, very good. But we take a look right now on the screen of that is, I believe, the 04 machine coming on through. Absolutely gorgeous, classic livery there on that car. You really kind of love to see that.
Yeah, and I think we're looking at the 94 right here of Dario Cangelosi running under 94 Motorsports. They're fielding 3 cars this weekend, all Sabecos. They've also got an LMP3 that they do arrive and drive with that we might see later in the year. But yeah, there's Ben Cooper in the 33 Sabeco.
And I've always loved those Sabeco cars because they have a little bit of a look of, well, a certain modern sports car that doesn't have a rear wing. The low-down nature of the Sabecos, it just always kind of surprises me, and I have to sort of hunt for that rear wing, and I love that look of it.
Yeah, definitely low. These cars, all the modern traction control, ABS in these cars, and different levels of performance from the 2-liter Mazda engine up to the 2.5, making between 190 and 250 horsepower. It looks like right around turn 6 there is where the safety truck stopped. So.
Yeah, we saw a pretty significant decrease in speed there from the entire field. The Ginetta safety car recovering recapping the vehicles, getting them all up in front, and that's going to be able to slow everything down here as they bring their way across. About 15 and a half minutes left to go, let's call it, in this race. And what we're going to do here at this point is throw to a quick commercial while this setup goes underway, but stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hungry for SVRA action? Well, the best way to enjoy classic auto racing is with a delicious classic from Mission Foods. Green flag your race-watching snacks with Mission's mouth-watering race day recipes. Try some of our tasty tacos, piled high nachos, fresh chips with guac, and more. So gear up your ride and fuel up those stomachs with delicious Mission Foods. Now that's too fast, too tasty.
The Mission Foods Laguna Seca Speed Tour returns to WeatherTech Raceway, Laguna Seca, May 3rd through the 5th, featuring the Trans Am Series presented by Pirelli Western Championship, the Sportscar Vintage Racing Association, PSSA International GT, Historic Trans Am, Toyo Tires 2.5 Challenge, Optima Ultimate Street Car, and Saturday you can take part in the Haggerty Cars and Caffeine Car Show. You do not want to miss the Mission Foods Laguna Seca Speed Tour, May 3rd through the 5th. For tickets, simply go to WeatherTech Race.
And welcome back to Road Atlanta. You join us once again under caution as everything does continue to circulate here. And it looks like, Jason, we were just looking on the screen that I think, based off of our timing and scoring, looks like Madison Prince may have been the driver involved in whatever brought out this yellow.
Yeah, Madison Prince, number 50, local guy from Ackworth, Georgia. Not sure if we got a replay on that, but somewhere around turn 6. It looks like Charlie Locklear here is going to play a factor in the restart as he's between Nolan and Radin.
Yes, he is, and that's Locklear there in that 00 Speco NP01 running in the PS3 category. And that's going to be a little bit of that lap traffic that we always have to deal with. I mean, that's the beauty what we talk about with multi-class racing. Not used to necessarily saying the term multi-class racing when we've got an open-wheel car such as that Panos out front, but nevertheless, we've got multi-class racing, and I think for the likes here of Nickel, he's going to have to get a little bit of a hustle on. Not that he can't. We saw that first opening start.
Yeah, that car, it's like shot out of a cannon there out of turn 12. And he's been around here a lot, has a lot of laps around here. And he's fast in pretty much everything he drives.
Yeah, so he may be a contender here at that point. And remember, it technically is two different classes. We're talking about the 9 boss category and the PS1 category, but you tell that to a racing driver. If there's an opportunity to make the pass, you're going to go for it.
Yeah. I mean, multi-class racing, still the overall win is still pretty special. So they're going to go for it here on the start.
Yeah, they certainly are, and the lights are out on the Ginetta safety car, which means that we will be back to that start here in just a few moments' time as drivers make their way down into Bennett Bridge Hall, turn 10A and 10B, getting ready to bring their way out and around. I'm going to be watching to see what Locklear does, if he's going to be a little bit courteous with this and get out of the way. His car comes down into pit lane, giving Nolan control of the field here at this point. Locklear giving him a big gap as Outlier comes into the acceleration zone, gets on the loud pedal, and that is the jump of jumps. Ooh, almost contact farther back in the field.
Yeah, it looked like Jim Downing got a jump before the green there, but I think Locklear's clear there, and they're off to the races again here.
Yeah, they're off to the races, and that contact that I was alluding to was between Downing and I believe Jessica Mucha there. It looked like that Daytona prototype, and he almost got together. Almost a little bit more coming through turn 2, and that is Locklear in that 00, very slow on the circuit. I'm hoping that is him just sort of opting to stay behind and let everybody get by him so he can run his own race.
Yeah, I know he had some issues earlier in the weekend, broken throttle pedal, so hopefully it's not that reoccurring, but it might be just him trying to get out of the way and let these guys carry on.
Yeah, that could be what it is, as drivers now work their way down into Customers Bank turn 6 and through turn 7. These wonderful prototypes now making their way down the snaking back straightaway, trying to pick up some of the draft, and that's something we haven't really talked about. With this increased downforce on the cars, the draft so much more effective in these machines.
Yeah, definitely the draft, and also wind. Wind direction can make a big difference in these cars going through the corners. Looks like they're pretty evenly spaced out here. Looks like Nickel almost 2 seconds ahead of Cincetti right now.
Yeah, and it looks like that gap staying relatively calm and steady here at this point. Jacek Mucha has been able to get away from Jim Downing. That almost contact that we saw further back in the field, not going to be a problem there with that as we focus in right now on the number 42 machine that you can see at the front of your screen. That's Das. Up ahead of them, Clay Keel, Ben Cooper. They work their way on through Mission Foods turn 1. Up and over the hill right now they go. There they go. That's Goebel Newsom behind as they continue to run. I believe that's Russell Allen that we take a look at right now in that black machine.
Yeah, this one, I think this might be Harry Colson.
You're right, it is.
Yeah, Harry Colson, Russell Allen in the orange and white Sabeco. All these guys, this is their first PSSA race. So, and those Swifts are sticking together.
Yeah, they certainly are. They're not going anywhere here at this point. Diving down into the corner is the number 15 machine. That's Wade Leathers. We talked about that. Those two Swifts kind of duking it out. And frankly, what we're seeing here out of the Swifts is kind of a copy from qualifying. We said there was about a 2-second gap in between the two. Well, that's about what they're running here at this point. So I want to give some massive credit there, in particular to Steve Consen, for keeping that gap at only 2 seconds. That's very, very heads up to be able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and those guys have obviously there's faster cars out there, and for them to be able to have their own race and not be looking in their mirrors the whole time, that's good to see that too.
Yeah, good to see that. Goebel Newsom going to be able to gain a position over Nathan Bird right now. Harry Colson looks like he may be dropping down through the order potentially. No, it's Nathan Bird that's dropping down through the order. Excuse me. Something's happened to that 00A machine. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm seeing him kind of plummet down our live timing and scoring right now. Allier holding about a 12-second gap over Nickel right now. There's a look at him right now, and oh, that car and the sound. And you can see it. It's that classic way of driving that car is just constantly dancing.
Yeah. Yeah, and it down at a 111. That's got to feel good in that car.
Yeah, it's got to feel great, but what probably doesn't feel great is the G-forces he's experiencing right now coming through the Cube 3S's. I mean, there's a reason why we don't see a whole lot of open-wheel cars racing here at Road Atlanta. It's, well, dangerous for open-wheel cars, and the G's that you pull in those kind of machines, absolutely brutal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it looks like Nickel down his best lap, 119.4, which I think that's might be his fastest lap around here in that car. So
good job there for Nickel. Also seeing Cincetti continuing to set personal best. The last time he came on through was a 120.593. But we've got a little bit of a battle brewing on our hands. We checked back on this a little bit earlier. I believe this is going to be Russell Allen and Harry Colson.
Yeah, and it looks like Gary Gray off at turn 10B or 11, just before the bridge. So, but continues here, Russell Allen and Harry Colson going at it.
Yeah, that's going to be Allen leading the way in that white, orange, and black machine. Of Colson trying to chase. We followed them a little bit earlier. Colson just trying to suck up behind at the track. But I've got to give credit there to Russell Allen, able to really extend that gap coming through Mission Foods turn 1. That was a big commitment there from Allen, and it really paid off in lap time.
Yeah, yep, for sure. And I just saw Gary Gray go by the broadcast booth here, so he must have spun and continued. So that's good. We stay green.
That is good. We stay green here at this point is the number 42 of Herbert Das in a little bit of consternation as they're running pretty close there. I think that's Clay Keel right up in front of him, and that's Goebel Newsom not too far behind.
Yeah, Clay Keel owns a winery down in Florida. So he left sunny Florida to come to overcast Atlanta.
Much like myself, I left sunny Southern California to come to overcast Atlanta, so I envy him. He had a shorter trip here at this point. But right now, we look down as your leader continues to lap away right now. That's the number 99 machine on your screen. That's Goebel Newsom. And Newsom's had a good drive here. Started very far down in the order and has been really able to climb up here at this point. Running right now in about 14th position.
Yeah, Newsom, that's a completely spec car, 2-liter Mazda engine, so he's doing really well with what he's got there. And this battle with Russell Allen and Harry Colson continues.
Yeah, it continues on here at this point. We give a look there at Harry Colson. Not able to set a personal best on the last lap, but I will say the best time that we've seen Colson set is significantly faster than Allen's best time, to the tune of about 0.8 of a second in between those two. So there's clearly some more speed to be had, but Colson just not able to close it in nearly as much, especially through this first sector of the lap. It's not looking as good there for Colson. Yeah, there he seems to fall behind a little bit, a lot in that first sector, and I think it's on the backstretch that he gains it up, and to me, that reads as a little bit of setup, that one driver went for a little bit of downforce and one driver went for not a lot of downforce.
Yep. Yeah, and it looks like they're starting to get into lap traffic here, so saw Raiden Nickel just pass the Swifts, and Cincetti's working on them now, so.
Yeah, they're making their way on through here at this point as we take a look at the number 84 machine, Clay Keel, that we talked about a little bit earlier. This is some of that traffic that they're going to be having to negotiate right now, and this is indeed that battle that we talked about a little bit earlier with Doss and Newsom, that they are absolutely on top of each other here at this point, although it has spread out a little bit more as they run, and it's now going to be Ben Cooper leading the way in that PS2 category, in the number 33 Clay Keel in the middle of it, and then Javier Das in that Ligier Formula 4 trying to hold on to the back.
Yeah, and Dario Cangelosi's still running strong up there in the PS3 class. I think he's the leader in PS3 right now. We're working lap 10.
As we work on lap 10 here at this point, only about 3.5 minutes left on the clock, and we've got a car coming down into pit lane, it looks like. So somebody not having a good day at the office, trying to get an eye and see what that is. But we're going to keep our eyes here on the battle that takes place on the circuit right now. Keel, Das trying to sort themselves out a little bit. I've got to imagine that Ligier is going to try to go for a move because they've got cars coming up from behind.
Yeah, and it looked like the kudzu of Jim Downing was sideways there off the track between turn 5 and Customers Bank turn 6.
Yeah, I noticed that as well, so we'll have to see if we can figure that out. Nolan Allmeyer coming across the line here at this point as the white flag flies. White flag is in the air for Nolan Allmeyer. One more lap to go, and one more lap of utter domination up at the front of that field for that Panos DP01.
Yeah, it looks like he's got he's out there by 24 seconds right now, so, and Raiden's moving away in a race all by himself here too, so.
Yeah, they'll continue to run as Allmeyer comes down into Customers Bank turn 6 here at this point, and you can definitely tell he's backing it off a little bit, and you were right. Komatsu is off to the outside there, so we'll have to see if we can figure, or the Kudzu rather, is off to the outside. We'll have to figure out exactly what happened there to that, but that's really of no concern to Nolan Allmeyer. Now is able to go on the back straightaway and keep his way rolling here at this point. I think it's safe to say this is almost a little bit of a victory lap here for Nolan as he brings his way down. It looks like he is definitely backing off a little bit, coming down the back straightaway.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if we're under full course yellow, but definitely backed it off as he comes into 10A here.
I'm not seeing any indication here for a full course yellow, so I'm not entirely sure, but that Judd engined Pano is going to come out of the final corner right now, work his way down and on through. He's going very slowly, but he will cross over the line and take the checkered flag. Nolan Allmeyer, your victor here from Road Atlanta. We've got to wait about 27 seconds here for the next car to come across the line in the form of Raiden Nickel. And we're hearing here that what that may have actually been is just a little bit of gamesmanship there for him. So that could have been for Nolan Allmeyer. So that could have been what that was. As we take a look at these cars starting to finish up here at this point, coming down through the Cube 3S's. An absolutely fantastic race and such a beautiful display of machinery here at such a pristine track. I mean, I know we're biased here, but it doesn't get much better than this.
No, it doesn't, and that's the thing with the PSSA series. You get to run on iconic tracks with Pirella Motorsports Holdings here and SpeedTour all over the country. So, yeah, we go to Sonoma Raceway and Laguna Seca next on the West Coast, and then we all join up back together at Road America.
All right, we're going to bring you back through some of the highlights here at this point of what was a fantastic Group 5A, 7, 9, 11, and PSSA feature. As here we are taking a look at it here at this point. It was an amazing start for Raiden Nickel, absolutely jumping his way forward. And then we saw a pretty good battle there in that Kudzu for Jim Downing as he tried to get his way through the field. Traffic management was a big story, as there we also saw off of the restart Charlie Locklear backing off, letting everyone through. The 55 having a good day out there and continuing on as that battle between Downing and Mark Russell carried on through much of the day. We also continued to watch this fight on your screen with Russell Allen trying to be able to keep his way up and forward. But the story across the board was Nolan Allier, who took a commanding victory. And we are going to throw to a quick commercial break here. Thank you so much for joining us. We will go to commercial right now.
The WeatherTech's here.
WeatherTech is the ultimate protection for your vehicle. Laser-measured floor liners, no-drill mud flaps, cargo liner, bump step, seat protector, and cup phone.
What about my car?
WeatherTech.
You've got a business to run, big and heavy products to ship, and customers who need them now. When you've got the right driver and the right equipment, you can bet on a spectacular result. Bennett understands complex logistics and puts the best team, the most time, and the latest technology into every customer relationship. So you can sit back, relax, and enjoy the race. Let us handle the rest.
Together, we can move anything.
Welcome back to the Mission Foods Road Atlanta Speed Tour here, and it's a beautiful day actually. Nice little bit of breeze. We've had a lot of rain in the weekend. Jonathan Green here, bringing you the action of our next group coverage, and it involves, well, quite an eclectic group. We've got Group 6, we've got the Ginettas, as you can see, and we've also got Group 12 in this one as well, and Group 8. So that means that Ben Sissel will be front and center, salivating at the opportunity to get amongst the Group 6. But we've also got Andrew Heffring, who is part of the Ginetta scene. In fact, his dad's out there right now, a racing driver himself, but he is an expert on all things Ginetta. And yeah, looking forward to this one. And I'll start with Ben. Ben, this is quite an interesting group, this lot, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'm super excited just because of these Ginettas. You know, as a British car guy, this is just the modern British cars.
Yeah,
and, you know, we've had Ginettas and SVRA, and they seem to dominate just about everything that they're in. Very lightweight, nimble cars, but these cars have a lot of horsepower, don't they, Andrew?
No, they have very little horsepower, actually, only putting about 270 to the wheels to the ground.
That's a lot of horsepour to me.
He's
a Mini Cooper's less than 100 horsepower, so that's a lot of horsepower.
Compared
for a
to an
British
MG,
car.
yes, there's definitely a lot of horsepower. But no, it's coming from a 3.7 liter V6 that I used to run in the Mustangs, and so it's basically a stock engine, and they are reliable and fast.
And these are the latest modern versions of the Ginetta, because the Ginetta is a long history, but this is the latest model, right?
Yes. So most of these cars are going to be 2023s. There's a couple 2024s. We have one that was a 2021. It was a test mule car that it's not out here this weekend, but it should be out at the next races. But yeah, they're all 2022 to 2024 cars.
So who would you say we should be looking for to be impressive today?
So
Ginetta?
Anybody in the top 6 has a really good shot of winning. Right now we're looking at the Rich Brow car, which is Christian Shield. He is the original Ginetta Challenge champion from 2022. And the car we're looking at now is the reigning champion from the VIR Ginetta Challenge Series, Daryl Allen. He is getting up to speed on the new tires, but he is quick and he is fast, especially when he gets a little angry. So let's see him coming out there. Todd Nunn that we're looking at now, he is a privateer driver and really kind of getting back in the series, doing well. And then once we see the car behind us, that is Mark Swain. That is essentially the operator of Ginetta North America. He's even he's racing in his own race series. We raced with him back, with the Spec Adams series almost a decade ago. And he brought these cars back over, and now he wants to race with us again.
Ben will
now look at this. This is Danny Lowry from Bennett Bridge Hall.
Their
in
event
a beautiful
this weekend.
Shelby GT350. That's the first time we've seen Danny Lowry with us in Group 6. He's raced with us in everything, but that is a true Shelby GT350 of Danny Lowry there. So it's really cool to have him out here with us.
Beautiful car.
But he's not on my grid sheet. But
a
I
bit
know
more modern, the one next to it. Again, a Mustang, but now another one. So look, you can see the evolution, as it were.
Now it's funny because, he's so used to running an SGT with the ABS brakes and the anti-lock brakes and all the driver assist. He came into, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, came into 10A in testing and just hit the brakes and locked them up and just went right through the tires because he's used to, the kind of brake assist stuff. And which is also very rare for Group 6 cars. When you get hard on the brakes, they either go left or right real quick. And this one went straight. So it's, I guess, attributing to Cobra Automotive and their great facilitation and building of these beautiful cars. So it's cool to have Danny Lowry out there. I think his mom is here watching. That's Renee Tursilla out there. But I think Danny Lowry's mom and family, everybody here from the Bennett team is out here watching. But that's Renee Tursilla in the 009 Ford FP350S. This car here, Alan Cohen, lots of fun. He brought us some energy drinks today that I absolutely loved. But look at these fender flares, Tony. Oh, look at that little peace sign. And he's wearing the gloves that we asked the drivers to wear. But get a shot of these fender flares. Wait, Tony, go back. The fender flares were made in Mooresville, North Carolina. He took them there. That car is actually a stock Cadillac that he's been building. And the flares on that are astronomical. So it's really cool to have Alan Cohen, Cadillac CTS-V, out there with us. We don't have a complete grid sheet, though. And it's, yeah, I think I have the same one.
Oh, okay.
But we're missing some drivers.
Well, we don't have Danny Lowry. He's
out
a
of
late
order.
entry for sure.
But we'll go through here. We've got David Lecco in a MPX as the class, Ginetta G56 GTA. Then Jeremy Zumwalt is number 2. Peter Heffring, 3rd. Seth Henry, 4th. Christian Shield, 5th. Darrell Allen, 6th. Todd Nunn, 7th. Mark Swain, 8th. Preston Peebles, 9th. And Randall Poteet in 10th. And that is the Ginetta class there. You see Skip releasing the cars from grid. They will go up ahead, and then what we ask the drivers to do, so you see Jerry Robinson on the right there in the Dodge Viper, is when they're coming into 10, when Jerry is coming into 10A, he wants to see the rear Ginetta basically going under the bridge. That's about the gap we want to give to these split starts.
Will they catch up? Jerry definitely will, to catch up to about maybe half the Ginetta field. Jerry's very quick. We've actually known Jerry for a little over a year now, and we've got a great relationship with him. He loves us, and when we saw the Ginettas roll off with the new Pirelli tires, he was like, "Oh man, I guess we're never going to catch your top guys again." And yeah, it's going to be a good fight with him, because Jerry's a really good racer and he's very good at dealing with traffic.
There you go.
And Jerry sent me a note. He's in the Dodge Viper. I think it's the ACRX, the factory-built race car that Dodge Vipers. We used to, one, I guess, broadcast, we called it a street car, I think I did, so I apologize for that. But he has the number 8 of, I believe, 50 cars produced that Dodge made for their race series back in the day.
It is a venomous car that is really fast.
So there's Danny Lowry. I like the use of venomous there with the Viper.
See what he did there.
But see, there's the 11 of Danny Lowry. So he's just not on our sheet, but Ron Pauly. So let's go through the vintage. So that's Jerry Robinson in a Dodge Viper, then ACRX, then John Strauss in a Ford Boss 302S, Alan Cohen in that Cadillac CTSV, Renee Tercilla in the Ford FP 350S, Tim Bowder in a Ford Mustang Group 12, Steve Denton in a Group 12 Porsche Cayman, Victor Corda in a Group 12 Ford Mustang 302R, James Contardi in a Porsche Carrera Cup 3.8, Chris Boutier, is that right? Boutilier?
Yep. Boutier, yep.
Ford Mustang
Boutilier.
Boss 3, and maybe in Atlanta it's Boutilier, but it might be
Boutilier.
Ford Mustang Boss 302, Ron Pauly in our Lexus IS 300, and then Danny Lowry in that Shelby GT 350.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is I don't know if Steve Denton is going to be on track. He had a problem in qualifying this morning, and I don't think I saw his car out there on grid.
So your dad's out there?
Yeah, he is.
How long has he been doing this then?
Oh, it's making me feel old, but we're coming up on our 14th year of racing. I started when I was 14, and we started at the same year. We went through a racing school. And then
he hadn't done anything before either?
No.
Wow, cool.
My grandmother shut that down really quick when he was young. He lived in the UK back in the era of when you could have really, had a shot at running in Formula One and that kind of stuff. And my grandma said, nope.
Look at that. Cool shot of the Ginettas coming into Group 10. Leave us a comment here if you're joining us on Facebook. Look like Eric Cartman from South Park is saying, go number 11. So it's an honor to have him here as they come into Bennett Bridge Hall. Turn 10, 10A, 10B, but Jonathan are coming down the hill to take the green flag.
Yeah, as you can see, led by the Ginettas, it's going to be a split start. The Ginettas leading the way, and a lot of interest in these beautiful cars from Leeds in England. This, the latest modifications of them, and they're 2x2 as they come down the hill here at Road Atlanta. Green flag waves, and away we go. Led by David Lecco and Jeremy Zumwalt. And everybody jostling for position, and the second start will get underway very soon indeed as they head up the hill. The others are coming down to start their race, and away go the vintage cars as well. But out and over the crest and out of the blind hill, here you come. Here's your Viper leading the way.
Jerry Robinson into Mission Foods turn 1 here at Road Atlanta, but I got to give it to Seth Henry. Made a good pass there in the number 44 at Mission Foods turn 1. A lot of Mustangs coming into turn 1 from every iteration of Mustang, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. We've got a real smorgasbord that's from the 60s all the way to, well, pretty much modern day yesterday. But now the Ginettas stretching their legs as they head down the hill and towards turn 6 again for the first time now in the race, though.
Yeah, we have our two youngest competitors going at it with Jeremy and Seth. Seth's only 21 and Jeremy's 28, both coming out of circle track and dirt racing. So definitely going to be up on the wheel real quick. And David Letko out front is first I want to say, non-club race, and it's pretty exciting. He got pole and now he's leading away.
Is he more of the road course guy? You mentioned the two dirt guys. I love the transition because it's never easy, but the Ginetta seems like it'd be a great way to get into road racing.
Yeah, it's a fantastic way to get into road racing. Dave Letko's coming out of Miatas, 100 horsepower Miatas in Texas, and it's the S's racing team that's supporting the car this weekend, and they have done a fantastic job prepping it and getting it ready for the track.
I know S's very well. My good friend David O'Neill works there, and they in fact have the privilege. Whoa, very wide goes the 21 for Jeremy there. Zumwalt almost getting it lost, but gathers it into turn one, the Mission Foods turn one, and back up the hill they go. But a big moment.
I love the smile on the faces of the Ginettas, but man, this top three, look at that side by side. Coming through there, that's not so suggested as they come down through the
he did it though, didn't he?
Q3 architecture S's, and Seth is there, but you can see Jeremy Zumwalt went a little bit wide there coming out of 12, and that's cost him that momentum because you can see how equally yoked these cars are from our shots from the drone. They are just keeping the same gaps. Nobody really has an advantage. This is a driver's class, this Ginetta Challenge.
Looks like Christian Shield and the number 10 is kind of trying to catch back up to the top three. He usually takes a lap or two to pick up pace, but he is definitely one of the fastest cars in the field as well.
Coming out of 7, the leaders now starting to pull away, the top 5 at least anyway. Top 3 glued together as you can see. Then there's a little gap to 4th and then 5th, and starting to spread out nicely. And we're just waiting to see, coming into 6th now, the Dodge Viper by the looks of it. So the more muscle-carred vintage cars starting to catch up bit by bit. We've got a battle here for 2nd place though into 10A. And it is Zumwalt that gets through and into 2nd. Makes it stick this time.
Very clean move. Good racing.
Very good. Yeah, that's a classic take, but he hasn't done yet, and back down the inside. Well, he's overtaking at places nobody else overtakes here at Road Atlanta. That's 2 overtakes that we didn't expect, so well done.
That was a great move by Seth.
Yeah.
Great car control. I've actually ridden with him a couple times, and honestly, you feel like you're going to crash with him, but he's always kept it right on the pavement, which is wonderful.
Christian Shield going up through Mission Foods turn 1 up to the top of the hill, and Christian Shield is closing that gap. But in the top 3, there was a larger gap there. It looks like he's going to be able to do that. Just that little bit of racing sometimes slows the other 2 cars down, or maybe Christian Shield has found some speed here.
Andrew, what's the, if people are watching, and I'm looking at the feedback on YouTube, and a lot of people are very interested in these Ginettas and how they are part of this. But give us an idea on sort of costing and how much it would be if you wanted to get involved in this, because it's in relative terms for the quality of the car, it's actually a pretty good price point in terms of getting involved.
Yeah, so if you wanted to buy one of these straight up from the factory ready to go racing, it's $125,000, and then you budget about $20,000 to get the car full ready for race spec. And it looks like Jeremy Zumwalt's coming down, getting passed back by Seth right here, going down the back straight.
He's got 2nd place, but it's not over yet because he's got the better line, isn't he?
He's going to go for it.
No, he's got him.
That was a good move. That was definitely a good move.
So we've got a really good battle here. So carry on.
Yeah. So it's about $145 all in to get a Ginetta Challenge spec car ready to go.
Right.
That includes rims, V-box, custom-made seat, that kind of stuff. And then we're aiming to where we want to have a little under a $60,000 budget for running 5 race weekends with 2 races each weekend. That includes tires, fuels, brake pads, anything you can imagine, transportation. So, we're trying to make a gentleman series of a pretty close like a GT4 level car at half the cost. And now we see Mark Swain, the owner of Ginetta North America, and he's coming up and doing some great racing with us. Appreciate him coming out. He went straight into qualifying, never ran testing here on a new tire setup, so it's pretty exciting. Prelli came on board only a few months ago, and it was fantastic to have him join us. And very few drivers have ever run on the Pirellis in these cars, and it is a fast tire. The more you push, the more it's there.
Yeah, and they don't wear out. Like we've seen in the Trans Am Series or International GT, these Pirellis, they don't wear out like some of the tires that we might be used to running.
And Andrew, as you're saying, there's the price point, but look what you're getting. A race car with a V6 Ford engine, 300 brake horsepower, 6-speed sequential gearbox, Motec. It really is the modern deal for racing.
Yeah, it really is. And, we've had them for about 3 years, and it is amazing how much they have grown in just the past, 12 months. It's, kind of once you get the catapult effect, it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and it's exciting. It looks like Jeremy Zumwalt's going to try to make a pass maybe down the front straight. It's coming really close.
Yep, here we go.
Yeah, so we're looking at right now Randy Potia and Preston Peebles. Randy has been joined part of the race series here for a couple of years and is really adapting well to the Ginetta. And this is Preston's first ever race.
Wow.
And it's exciting. He's doing great, and he's having a lot of fun. So that's what matters, right?
Yeah, exactly. Indeed, and he's doing a good job too.
Yeah. He's done a lot of time attack and a lot of time trial stuff. So he knows how to drive a car quick. He knows how to, keep it underneath him. But now he just has to learn the racecraft side of it.
And you've driven these cars, you've raced these cars. Is it easy to drive these cars?
They are pretty easy to drive. To get them to 8/10, not difficult at all. They can be a little twitchy when they're cold, but what race car isn't?
Right.
That last 2/10 can definitely be a little bit tough to achieve because it's a lot of grip. You have to get over the, okay, now I can push the car even farther. And now we're looking at Jerry Robinson, which is nice to see him out there. That Viper is just beautiful.
Yeah, currently in 10th position, so he's doing some catching up. His last lap of 1:34.6, so he's on the pace.
First in his group.
Yeah.
First overall in his group, Group 12. He was our Amateur Mechanic of the Year with SVRA, but absolutely beautiful car with Bobby Archer here this weekend. Dylan Archer was here in the beginning of the weekend, but he's at COTA right now as a spotter for the NASCAR races. But it's really cool to see Jerry Robinson back out with us at Road Atlanta in that Viper. And like you said, yeah, he's catching these Ginettas.
Yeah, Jerry's a great personality. He's one of the best people in the paddock I think we've met in the past 2 years, and we love seeing him out here.
Well, he's finally caught up with the back end of the Ginettas, as you can see. Cadillac.
Alan Cohen. Now look at the flares on that thing. That is such a really cool car, and I see that somebody here is saying go Patriot Missile because we know him in the Patriot Missile also. But that's his CTS-V car that he bought and has been developing into a race car ever since. And then there's Renee Torsilla right behind him with John Strauss. These two are both with Griffin Motorsports from South Florida, with Billy Griffin running in the TA class now.
Now, talking to Florida, I've just got a question, and I've got one for you now. Can you get an SVRA license in Florida?
Yes. Yeah.
That's for RDC Autosports.
All 50 states. The SVRA license translates into, and basically North America. All the vintage racing groups recognize it, but who is this coming up right behind John Strauss in that 77?
That's my dad, Peter Heffring. Honestly, I didn't see him take the start with the rest of the Ginettas. I wonder if he had a problem kind of getting out on track. So I think he's kind of fighting his way back through the field.
Well, he's struggling to get through there, but I think he's definitely quicker than the two cars in front of him. Here's a question for you. We just had it on the internet. The Ginettas are light, but have a bit of a twitchy bounce if you can't load up the aero. Is that fair?
That is correct. So over the winter, we actually had to stiffen the springs all the way around the car. So now it's even bouncier. So all the drivers are talking about coming down through turn 12 that there's a nasty bounce. You have to be a little bit careful because the car will actually get airborne. So we're in the process of fine tuning these cars because it's a new tire setup, new spring setup, and all the teams are really working hard on finding out what the perfect balance is. And I think it's going to be a nice, fun season because when something clicks, I think it's going to really open up these cars even more.
Good. That's good to get a good full answer to that one.
I saw on the pace lap that there was the white Ginetta coming around, so he must have gotten to a late start, or he must not have made the grid, so they made him start in the back. But now he's finding out that these Mustangs are really wide. We see some weather stripping there coming up the side of the number 52 of Tim Bowder, so it looks like something's happened there to the weather stripping maybe on his hood coming up through, but that's a beautiful Ford Mustang.
Yeah, I don't think that's harming it anyway, though.
Wait, is that Tim Bowder?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So we're 10 minutes in. We've got a few minutes left. David Lecco leading well here at the moment, but it's a good battle for the lead. Jeremy Zumwalt right there with him, and it's going to be a battle to the finish. Seth Henry still third. He's still very much in contention. And then fastest lap of the race so far, Todd Nunn, a 1:34.7 in 7th place at the moment.
Looks like Jeremy got through coming out of the broadcasting booth here. Yeah, Jeremy's gone through.
Ah, good call.
That is the 67 of Chris Boutillier. Boutillier? I don't know.
No, Boutillier. I like it.
But we do have a lot of Mustangs in this race.
Yeah, we've been asked why there's no Camaros. I'll let you take that one. No, it's just choice, right? They totally qualify.
Yeah, we could have Camaros out here. I think, honestly, it's Ford, like Porsche, just has a better race support for their customers than GM back in this day. And now we see Ford really stepping up with the things that they're doing with these dark horse cars and everything that they're doing. With Jim Farley at the helm, such a, race car aficionado and racer here with us in SVRA, would actually be out in this group we're seeing right now.
Yeah, that's right.
He loves his racing and really wants Ford to compete with Porsche for the kind of customer service that Porsche race car drivers are attuned to, and that's what Ford is trying to do with this new Mustang and Dark Horse program.
Yeah, with the Mustang series now, one make series, that's bound to just up the ante again. 8th overall now, Jerry Robinson, as we've been looking at the all-green Viper. So doing a great job at the moment.
But there's our leader, that's Zumwalt. So yeah, he's in the lead over Lecco.
Yeah, he's got ahead of Lecco, hasn't he?
Half a second, but you can see he's not getting the exit out of 10B that he needs to have, because this is such a driver class, this Ginetta Challenge, that every little scrubbing of the tires, takes just that little bit, because these cars are so equally yoked.
Yeah, and Jeremy actually just put down the fastest official lap in a Ginetta this weekend at a 1:31.7. He's definitely moving.
So I'm hearing the white flag next time by for
makes sense.
Jeremy Zumwalt.
Boy from New York says, hello, boys in the booth. Hello, boy from New York. Glad you're with us yet again.
Also, Peter Tremulous is saying, go 11. I'm sad to report that the 11 has just come down into pit lane.
Ah, Danny. Oh, Danny boy. But he'll be up and at it tomorrow, of course, in the TA race. Another Bennett Bridge Hall Classic race. It's part of the Road Atlanta Speed Tour.
Coming through Customers Bank, turn 6. That's the 17 of Mark Swain. And you said that he's the
owner of Ginetta North America, and he is the one who's been importing these cars and really getting them out here with us and getting car supply. And they now bring a parts truck, and it's a really nice gesture.
So white flag coming up in our Group 6, 8, 12, and Ginetta class. There it is. Final lap.
Yeah, it looks like David Lecco got a little bit unlucky there and got held up by another car as he was coming down turn 12, and I think that's going to let Jeremy just kind of scamper away.
Well, unless he gets held back here in these S's as we go through the Cube 3 S's for the final time. He has a gap of about 2 seconds, but as you can see, he's getting held up a little bit by the slower Mustang here. He's going to try and navigate his way around. He just can't quite do it yet. Now he's done it he's done it now. So, yep, weaving his way through, snaking nicely through there. Final lap then. And as you say, he's kind of cracked it, hasn't he? There's enough of a gap now where unless he makes a mistake, he's got this safe.
Yeah, we've seen some aggressive driving going down the Cube 3 S's there. That wasn't quite the vintage racing pass you want to
right
see.
there.
Look
at that. It's going to be a battle down the back straight.
Yeah, Lecco got a bit of a break there in turn 7 because, look, they're still now side by side almost as they get behind that
He's using
Mustang.
the draft.
Mustang's got the grunt
has
now.
The power. So if he can use that draft and make a good pass into 10A.
Here we go.
He's going for it.
And he's got the line too. This could be a great race to the finish. Side by side coming into 10A for the win. Last lap. Lecco on the inside in all white, but crossing his bows in the 21 is Zerwalt. But still side by side as they come under the bridge.
Oh, he got.
Oh, they split. The Mustang, or tried to.
Oh, it was so close. He just got held up, just picked the wrong side, and that happens sometimes in racing. But what a fantastic end to the first Ginetta Challenge race for Ginetta North America. It's amazing.
That's great. Just what we wanted. And we're going to get more of that. Where else are we going, Andrew?
So next stop is VIR with Hyperfest, and then we are with SVRA at Mid-Ohio in June. We're at Watkins Glen in August, and we're back to VIR for the championship final in October with SVRA yet again.
Perfect.
It's going to be a fantastic race series.
Love to hear it. And the Dodge Viper, surprise, surprise, finishes on top, still in 8th position overall, and about to take the checkered flag. And here he comes. Crossing the line now, Jerry Robertson wins for Group 12.
Oh, it looks like Darrell Allen may have had a bit of a problem. He fell back, and he's actually behind Peter Heffring as well. So maybe maybe Peter either made some sort of unbelievable lap, or they must have had an issue.
There's a man who knows how his inheritance works, doesn't he? A miraculous last lap by Dad.
Sorry. Yeah, honestly forgot he was my dad for a second.
No, you're just doing a good job. Anyway, we'll take a short break. My thanks to Andrew Heffring, who was calling the race with us, and of course Ben Sissel. We'll be right back with more from the Speed Tour after this.
That bush is really coming along. Hi, Carla. What are you up to? Oh, I just spent the whole morning having a little battery-powered fun. I can see that. This thing is powerful. Hey, honey, I was just gushing about our new favorite toy.
Let me tell you, the battery life on this thing, you wouldn't believe it. Sometimes we need a little extra push to get there. Sometimes, hey, I let it do all the work for me.
And it has so many different settings. All right, Joel, ready to go again?
You should join us sometime.
I've got to get me one of those.
Back to the Mission Foods Road Atlanta Speed Tour. This is International GT Race 2. Actually, this is the second race of the day. We had a fantastic race that Tom Pank won. There is Tom Pank right there, and that number 42, 2013 Porsche GT3 Cup. I believe that's the GT4R. You can see there on the rear end and how the big fender flares. Let's see if we get a thumbs up, or is he too game face? Come on, Tom. Give us a thumbs up. Oh, taking a second off his time.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody who doesn't thumbs up
gets in trouble. Beautiful car here. This is the number 313 Tadas Karlinkas.
That is different, isn't it?
It's hand painted. They wrapped it, and then people came in and hand painted the lines, kind of like the Warhol BMW cars of the day, which I absolutely love the livery of that car.
It's kind of funky. Yeah, I like it. Well, we got one Ginetta in this one, but it's not racing. Well, it could be. It might lead more laps because it's the pace car, and we're delighted to have Ginetta on board as our official pace car this year. There's Mr. Fengler with his sign up. Greystone Eye.
Now, we were seeing the other side of the sign. The drivers were seeing that sign say 2 pace laps. So that is Reg Williams, Dr. Reg Williams with that Greystone Eye, the 008. Porsche GT3. It's a 2017 GT4R. We got 1 minute on the grid. This is another group that runs these Pirelli P0 tires. We were just talking about them with the Ginetta cars. And then Eric Cartman was wondering, I still can't help but wonder what directions the planes landed on the back straight. Eric, I guess that would be a whichever way the wind was blowing is, no pun intended, that would be the way that they landed on the back straight. But that is kind of the lore of Road Atlanta. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what we're talking about. So that's a lot of fun. But we've got, I think, 18 cars signed up here for International GT. I'm hearing that they may release cars. We're seeing the shot there from Tony. Ken Fangler holding up 2 pace laps. So what that means is they go out, they do a pace lap, and then the timer starts for their race on the second pace lap. There's David Tuwati. David Tuwati had an off in the first race at turn 5. Wasn't very happy with his finish, but there it is. There's our in-car camera. Mark Sandridge in that 991.2. Mark Sandridge with Sandridge Foods out of Medina, Ohio. That's a 2018 Porsche GT3 GT 4.0 liter engine. Mark Sandridge's son is actually here, Jordan Sandridge, racing with him in a 2016 Porsche GT3 Cup car.
Now, do you think after qualifying, Juan Gonzalez here gets together with Mark Sandridge to talk food?
I'm sure they do. They both have big food processing facilities. Grandma Salads is Sandridge Foods that you can get in grocery stores all across America.
Yeah. Yeah, and shout out to Juan Gonzalez, who's been a huge supporter of us in the last few years, as well as many others. Pato O'Ward now in IndyCar and many others, but he's in IMSA, he's in Indy, he's very much a part of Trans Am, racing obviously himself, so he doesn't just throw the money out and pass it out. He's part of the event, and that's a good way to keep an eye on your product and how they're using it, right?
Yeah, and the NHRA.
Yes,
I think he's the title sponsor of the NHRA Mission Foods. So let's go through the grid here. Starting in first is Tom Pank. Second is Tadas Karlinkas. I hope somebody's a magician in that family.
Ta-da!
Reg Williams is third. Lucas Pank, Tom Pank's son, in fourth. David Tuwati, fifth. Mark Sandridge, sixth. James Hammond, racing his son Stephen Hammond's car. And he said, I talked to him at the grid, or at the winner's circle after last race, and he loves that car now. So, Stephen, you might not be getting that car back. David Richardson in a 2018 Porsche GT3 Cup. Juan Gonzalez, Porsche GT3 Cup. Scott Vanacore in a 2019 Porsche GT. Thomas Ballister, 2015. Jordan Sandridge is in that 3.8. Ross Poole is in a Cayman 3.8. David Paul is in an Exhibition 2016 Porsche GT3 Cup. Richard Manis in a 2019 Porsche Cayman 3.8. Ariel Offgang in a Cayman 3.8. Ernestes Puzelis in a 3.8 Cayman. And Paul Denton rounds out the class in a 3.8 Cayman. As they come through the Bennett Bridge Hall Turn 10 complex here at Road Atlanta.
Don't know how many guests they'll have here will Bennett Bridge Hall this weekend, but shout out to them. This, of course, their Bennett Bridge Hall Classic this weekend. So welcome, one and all, and thank you for their support.
Safety car has been ordered to pick up his pace as he comes around here in the Mission Foods complex.
Yeah, these are a whole different ball game, aren't they? These Porsches are fast, and they want to get those tires up to speed, and they want to go as fast on the formation lap as they can, really.
Look at that car, though. Mr. Karlinskis in that 2014, just the hand-painted, I love that. And he was with us at Sebring, and I can't remember his racing partner's name, who also has a car very similar to that, but he was explaining to me when I was doing a Facebook Live that it is wrapped, and then somebody hand-painted it, basically painted the lines on it. It's just so cool.
And our GT, we have both the Stuttgart and the Maranello Cup. Mostly Porsches out this weekend. Changes from weekend to weekend. We also have an endurance race which takes part over the weekend. Sometimes 2 drivers, but not always. Yeah, we're going to get some nice onboard from Sandridge, aren't we?
Yeah, Mark Sandridge, longtime competitor in IGT. When I started with IGT about 9 years ago, and they were still like hoping to get 8 in the field. You know, Mark Sandridge was there, standing strong with us, and really helping to elevate the series. And some great battles with Mark Sandridge and Tom Pank back in the day. And so it's really cool to see him here with his son, just having a blast.
And of course, IGT, if we haven't mentioned it already, now part of the Pirella Holdings family, which is growing exponentially, it seems. So congratulations to be part of this family. They have been part of the family, but now it's official.
So now they're trying to get heat into their tires. You see that Motul bridge there. That was the Dunlap bridge in Ford versus Ferrari, and they ran it counter race, and they made that bridge the Dunlap bridge, which is it's always really fun to see when they kind of do things like that in the movies. Sure. And you're like, I know that corner.
So they
launched this like Lotus-looking thing out of this cannon to land in front of the cars that they're showing, and it's pretty neat to see all the behind the scenes of that.
Very cool. Well, the lights are off on the Ginetta, which means our second IGT race of the weekend about to get underway. Tom Pank will lead them through. Carl Linkus in that special painted number 313 is second. Reg Williams in third in the 008. Down the hill they come, 2 by 2. The pace car's gone. Away we go. Race 2 underway, and Tom Pank in the all fluorescent green has the better line for now, but Carl Linkus trying to go whole shot and go round the outside, but I don't think he's going to make it. Lucas Pank also with a good start in 4th. On board now with Mark Sandridge for the first time as they crest over the blind hill at the top. Diving down to the Cube 3S's.
See, Lucas Pank got ahead of Reg Williams, and look for this orange car, the TLM of David Tuwati, to really try to give Reg Williams a run for his money. David Tuwati not happy with his first race, so we'll see what he does, but then there's Hammond right behind him.
Clean start. And already the top 3 pulling away from the group as they dive into 6th for the first time. And my man Ron at the helm of the camera. Ken Fengler is on board. He's in the house, as they say. He's rushed up, having got them out cleanly. And he'll be pleased to know that there is no drama, young Ken, so far.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Hopefully a continuation of race 1 this morning. And yeah, I watched the start and kept my fingers and toes crossed, and all good.
Yeah, we had a few shenanigans at Sebring, didn't we? It was an interesting start to the year, but they've calmed down a bit.
Right. Yeah.
You had a word, right?
Yeah, we did, yes. So
I didn't see too many Maranello Cups this weekend. It's a varied group each time, isn't it?
Yes, I would say the Ferrari group, the Maranello group is probably the most fickle group. Sometimes yes, sometimes they're on their yacht, somewhere in Monte Carlo.
When you own a Ferrari, it's what about, you put your finger in the air to see how the wind is on the day, and then I'll stay by the pool.
Yeah, that's life. But it's all good. We still have good racing on track.
Yep, we do.
Unbelievable. You see there, Reg Williams being able to hold off David Tuwati as we ride on board now. Here with Mark Sandridge behind Hammond, and it's I was talking to James Hammond when he got out of the car, and now he loves this car. So I just told Steven he might be losing this car.
Yeah, exactly. You have to let Dad borrow the car, the keys to the car. It's usually the other way around. Usually it's Junior asking for the keys to the car, just bring it back full. And this way here, it was the other way. Dad was asking for the keys to the car.
That's David Richardson behind Mark Sandridge. There's our camera car as he comes to Customers Bank turn 6. Mark Sandridge from Sandridge Crafted Foods. I was just saying, one of the kind of original international GT competitors.
Yeah, Mark's been with us a lot of years. He won when we were just prior to the Stuttgart Cup. We had another Cayman Series, and Mark won the championship, I think in 2011 or so, called the Inter Series. And it was the beginning of really the Cayman being a race car for Porsche. Prior to that, they really only recognized the 911 as the purpose-built race car, but sales of Caymans were lagging a bit. And when Napleton Porsche went to them and said, we'd like to buy 70 cars, they kind of paid attention, said, oh, maybe we should do this. And obviously they followed suit years later with their own series in Caymans.
There's that car. And I think this is my favorite in your field, just that hand-painted wrap there of Karlinskis. in that 2014 Porsche. But where did he come from? The first time I saw him was at Sebring.
Yes, he ran with us at VIR, and of course Darius, his co-driver, won all 3 races there at Sebring. You know, one of those Eastern European bloc countries, I don't know, not very big, and you don't hear much of. You know, you know, you hear of Liechtenstein and all, you know, these smaller countries, and that's where he's from. But a great addition to the International GT paddock and racetrack.
So we see Tom Pank leading, and then Karlinskis second, Lucas Pank, and then Reg Williams. And look for Reg Williams and Lucas Pank. Reg Williams I thought would be ahead of Lucas Pank, but Lucas Pank does cut a little bit smaller hole through the air here at Road Atlanta.
Yeah, certainly, you know, Lucas is a great student of the game. You know, spends a lot of sim time, and it shows on the racetrack. He just shows up and is usually dialed in. He's been a great racer, you know, you know, father-son team and father-sons of the Pank family that run with International GT. But Lucas is the most consistent of running with us and has really brought it on and won a championship for that.
Consistent because Tom Pank seems to be a little bit checkers or wreckers type of a racer, and Lucas Pank seems to come to the finish line a little bit better.
Well, that's Tom's.
No offense, Tom.
That's Tom's personality, you know. That's Tom. For a while, I basically labeled him my ADD poster child. All right, I just had to try and keep him on the short leash and keep his attention. But when he's dialed in, as he was this morning, yeah,
so
he's very quick, very consistent, and that was his key this morning. He got down very quickly, cut some fast laps, and ran consistently in those laps, where the other competitors took their time in getting down the track. It was a bit cold, bit damp, and bit green this morning, but not so this afternoon.
One of my favorite racers in the paddock is Tom Pank. Always fun to be around. But here we are, Mark Sanders. Look at this, kind of drafting behind James Hammond. Looks like he's going to be able to get right behind him, but does he have enough going into Bennett Bridge Hall turn 10A? Doesn't look like it. And then Mark Sandridge, kind of, we were talking about Tom Pank, kind of the other approach to racing of just kind of making sure he has the pass and pretty conservative and kind of the sportsman drivers that you want, you know, behind the wheel of your cars in International GT. And he and James look like they are having the most fun out there right now.
Yeah, certainly seasoned racers, so to speak. And, you know, there's no use right there. He'll earn the pass and earn it cleanly. And but good job running. Joe Barty crewing those cars very, very well. And good to have Mark Sandridge and Sandridge Foods back with International GT.
Having so much fun with his son out here, Jordan Sandridge, and it came in a GT 3.8. Sorry about that. But as they come through the Cube 3, you can see that Mark's car is faster in some areas. James' car is faster in other areas. So this should be quite the battle. Mark's getting frustrated here as he comes into Customer's Bank turn 6, but then James is able to keep him behind him.
Yeah, he can't pull up on him. Let's take a look down the grid. Says, hey, other names I see on there running well: David Richardson in the exhibition class, Thomas Ballister in a 3.8 liter with his teammate in a 4 liter, Scott Vanacord, running, you know, 8th, 9th, and 10th. Jordan Sandridge, Mark's son, in 11th, and David Paul, exhibition. We move to the Cayman class in Stuttgart Cup. Ross Poole, newcomer, relatively, second race with IGT, but leading the Stuttgart Club class in front of Richard Manis and Ariel Wolfgang, who's been on the podium many times with International GT, and Ernesto Pulas, who's new with us, and really just getting new car, new driver, and just getting his feet wet with this racing thing.
Mark Sandridge behind James Hammond as they come into Mission Foods turn 1, and you can see this is just like the battles that we've had with Stephen Hammond and David Tuati back in the day, where they're just so equally yoked, and one might be better in the entrance of a corner, one might be better at the exit, but just running very similar laps.
Yeah, I'd say this was a good pick for the in-car camera.
Yeah.
Good battle going on here between James Hammond and Mark Sandridge in 6th and 7th. Tom Pank still leads out in front. Tatis getting down to hit Tom's best time, getting close there. He'll have to be consistent, but getting close and passing is another story.
Yeah.
And you know, he will have to fight hard for Tom, as he said on the podium, he said, I don't know if I've got anything for Tom, but he's getting closer, so maybe it'll be race 3.
Yeah, now look at this. He's just kind of sucking right behind James. They come up to the crest of this hill. They're at pretty much full speed here, and then it's got to be hard on the brakes. So if you don't just get it right, you come side by side, sometimes it gets pretty ugly there. But you can see Mark Sandridge, he might just be having a blast doing exactly what he's doing right now.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, 2 cars classed in the same class, 4-liter class. First, second, and third is Lucas Pank is running up ahead of them in 5th place. So 5th, 6th, and 7th are all 4-liter cars. That's Richardson and the 06 car. David.
Now, why is he running Exhibition?
Exhibition? Let's just say the black round things aren't quite up to spec.
Okay. Makes sense, yeah. But when they have a car like this, you're going to find a place for them to run. It's just they may not be competing, but still he may be out here like we've seen in other series, like with Ted Giovannis, testing for whatever other things he's doing, and you put him in an exhibition.
Yeah, I think they're pretty consistent in the in one of the Cup Series, Porsche Cup Series, so you know, which runs other tires. So you know, yes, we do see them. Maybe a one-off, but you know, these one-offs are what makes us have us win them over. You know, to go on to other races with IGT. Hopefully their experience is good enough that they'll enjoy coming back.
Yeah, how many times have we heard that, yeah, I came to run one just exhibition and I had so much fun, now I'm a series regular.
Yeah, that's a great thing. We have 4 new customers here in this, and it's great to have that new blood come into International GT.
Mark Sanders, this seems to be the closest he's gotten. You can see how light they get coming under that bridge over the crest of the hill. He's really right behind James, but they're both on the power at about the same time. I mean, this is
very evenly matched. I mean, he's going to have to wait for James to make a mistake. That's what he's patiently waiting for. You know, not hit the apex, leave some room there, not get a good track out. Some mistake along the way, he hopes will lose his concentration. Of course, James has the extra job of watching in the rearview mirror, of knowing where he is. So it's not that easy. A lot of times it's a lot easier if you're in the lead. You just got to drive out the windshield. Driving in the rearview mirror is not a lot of fun.
And you can see David Tuati now behind Reg Williams. So Reg Williams got around Lucas, but now Tuati coming up behind Reg. So Reg should be able to pull him a little bit here, but now Tuati might be able to get him coming into turn 10A, 10B. But here's that fight again with Sandridge.
Yeah, good battles throughout.
Here we go. Look at this. David Tuati right behind Dr. Reg Williams. And let's see what they can do coming into Mission Foods turn 1. I think that's where David's going to want to try to take him, but not sure if he can.
Yeah, we saw that great pass when he was running with Stephen Hammond here on the last lap, and he may be setting up Reg for that Twattyism, okay?
Yeah, the side-by-side 10A, 10B pass.
Right,
yeah.
And then just, on the last lap pulled out the pass, yeah.
Look at how they use that curbing up there to basically steer the cars. Here we go into Mission Foods turn 1. Mark Sandridge giving that look. Mark Sandridge coming right behind Hammond. Just can't seem to make it work. Or maybe he's just having a blast doing what he's doing. Look at how even they are. I can't believe it. Like, it looks like they're choreographed. This is unbelievable. I've never seen this long of just staying this even. It's like, well, I'm going to stay 2 car lengths behind you. I mean, if they were shooting a car commercial, they couldn't do this.
Yeah, you watch and you see that opportunity that Mark could go by, and I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, there hasn't been that mistake. There hasn't been that advantage of speed in the brake zone. In the track out, both of them very, very evenly matched.
There's Lucas Pank there, Tom Pank's son, but also a Mission Foods GT Cup Trophy champion from last year.
Yep.
You can see him just hang that
2022.
Okay, yeah, 2022,
yeah. Last year was Scott Blind, not with us this weekend, but we expect to see him throughout the season. Scott runs a lot of different races and experiments, so to speak, and but he always enjoys the, there's a great video that Pirelli put out about 3 weeks ago at Sebring, and Scott was one of our enthusiastic supporters of International GT. He had a great season.
Yeah, see, we're seeing missing the jester, Scott B.
Good, yeah.
Yeah, so exactly, I love it in our comments. But yeah, Scott and his team always, they always very well dressed, and they all kind of choreograph and synchronize what they're going to wear, but have a blast here in the paddock and add a lot to the whole Speed Tour paddocks with their whole presentation.
Yeah, no, the Ruckus Racing crew was a great addition to the paddock. We miss them. Come on back. You could be in the middle of this right now.
Look at this, David Tuati, Reg Williams. These are two really good drivers. David Tuati, he's getting frustrated in there if he can't find a way around. That's a new car for Tuati.
Yeah, sure is. Yeah, the new livery, not new car, new livery. He went through 3 different liveries. I'd say this is the correct one for a Tuati car. The others were let's say, more RAF olive drab. Okay, they were certainly not of this, but coming up on some traffic, which may play into the hands here, and this may be the difference right here.
And Lucas Paintclough.
Wow.
I give my award there to the Cayman driver who just held his line.
They did, yeah, did a good job there. I'm sure it was not the most, it certainly got his attention, so to speak, saying, great, now I got 2 guys on either side of me.
You can't miss that orange car in your mirror.
No.
You can see the leaves starting to come in here on the trees in Road Atlanta as they come into Bennett Bridge Hall, turn 10A, 10B. You can see the front, you can't call that a hood on a Porsche, but the front flap on David Tuati's frunk is coming up and down.
Next lap, Stuttgart Cup still has Ross Poole in front, Richard Manis in second, Ariel Wolfgang in third, Ernesto Rosales bringing up, and Paul Denton down a few laps. He had some problems, came in and went back out.
Let's see what he can do here now. David Tuati knows he's got a little bit of time, but we're on board with Mark Sandridge. Let's see what Mark Sandridge can do here. He's getting behind him. Might have it. Woo. Look at that.
Yeah. There it goes. There's the pass.
Good driving by James Hammond, who saw him there.
Yeah. James says, once he got alongside him, James says, all right, you got the position. So.
But isn't that what we're looking for here?
Yeah.
In a series like this?
I have to say, these guys, no matter where they finished, this could be happening at the back of the grid, and this is still good racing.
Yeah. Yeah, lots of fun to watch here. As we're seeing now, there's James Hammond. And there's the white flag on Tom Pank, our leader. And that Base Saber GT4R 2013. And he's coming up on lap traffic. And how do you say the first name of the person behind him?
I'm sorry?
Tadas?
What's that?
Did you say Tadas?
Yes, Tadas. Yeah. At least that's the way I call
Tadas.
it. Yeah, I'm not saying it's correct. I'm just saying it's the way I say it.
I was like them, just like ta-da.
Ta-da. Yeah, really.
He's in a 4R.
Yep.
Right behind him. And here they come up the lap traffic into Customers Bank. So there is our leader. Tom Pank in that wide, those 4Rs are just wide portions. Big rear fender flares.
James Hammond kind of gave up the ghost. I have to say, he ran toe-to-toe with Mark Sandridge, but after that passed, I think that all the air went out of the balloon. His last lap was 4 seconds slower. He just kind of said, all right, you got me, but I'm going to live to fight another day, and that's a good thing. And another day is tomorrow morning, 60-minute race. I think we go off at about 8:10, and it's always interesting because the race strategy comes in, pit stop strategy comes in, a totally different ball game from these sprint races that we run on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's Tadas there, right behind. Still keeps Tom Pank in his view.
Yep.
But the checkered flag is out. Tom Pank, Tadas, then David Tuwati, third, coming back from fifth. And look at that, Reg Williams, Lucas Pank, and then we should be seeing Mark Sandrich coming into view here.
Good run for the guys. I'd like to thank our marketing partners, Mission Foods and Pirelli, our sponsors, Sunoco Race Fuels, Interlake, and Detroit Watch Company. Thank you for all your support. Stand 21, official vendor, Speedcom Communications, all helping International GT to be what I consider one of the premier sportsman series that's out there. Going to the best tracks, best time. If you're looking to be at some of the most fantastic racetracks in the United States, we will be there in one of our 11 locations that will be there throughout 2024, including Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Nice. Well, I'm hearing that we have some highlights coming up from this race. So they've cut together some highlights for us. So let's go through the highlights here at Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta with the Mission Foods Road Atlanta Speed Tour.
Well, Ben, I'm glad to hear that they're highlights and not lowlights. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
The race is over, and it's I'm glad to hear that part.
So you can see the leaders come down into Winner's Circle. So Ken, thank you so much for joining us. Great race. We'll see you here at Winner's Circle here in a little bit.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ben. Thank you for the invite, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.
All right. So we have Tom Pank in first. Tadas Karlinskis in second, David Tuwati third, Reg Williams fourth, Lucas Pank fifth. Mark Sandrich got around James Hammond there on the last lap. James Hammond seventh, David Richardson eighth, Thomas Ballister ninth, and Scott Vanacore 10th. That is the top 10 there in International GT here at the Mission Foods Road Atlanta. But as the drone comes in, here comes our highlights, ladies and gentlemen. It was an unbelievable start as they come into Mission Foods. Turn one, down through cube 3 S's as they kind of now go back and forth. But then Tadas Karlinskis was really showing us some of the power that he's got in that 313. And there's Lucas Pank and Reg Williams coming down this back stretch. But this was the race to watch. Mark Sandrich, James Hammond, very equally yoked throughout the race. Unbelievable racing there with Mark Sandrich. You can see here getting right beside James Hammond, but not able to do it there until the last lap. And then there's David Tuwati and Reg Williams. Here comes Mark Sandrich. Here's the pass. James Hammond sees him next to him, but an unbelievable International GT race at Road Atlanta. Well, ladies and gentlemen, join us after this break. It's been a fantastic Mission Foods Road Atlanta Speed Tour high above here at Road Atlanta. Beautiful weather. Join us right after this break.
Hungry for SVRA action? Well, the best way to enjoy classic auto racing is with a delicious classic from Mission Foods. Green flag your race-watching snacks with Mission's mouth-watering race day recipes. Try some of our tasty tacos, piled high nachos, fresh chips with guac, and more. So gear up your ride and fuel up those stomachs with delicious Mission Foods. Now that's too fast, too tasty.
Hello and welcome back to Road Atlanta. DJ Clark joined up here in the commentary booth alongside Ben Sissel. And Ben, we get ready for SVRA Groups 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5B. Always fantastic to be able to see cars taken around this track. And with these drivers, a little bit less horsepower, a little bit less grip on the circuit. So it's going to change things up a little bit and make for a very different style of racing than we're used to.
Yeah, this is actually my favorite class, and I know I say this every time, but I love the little British sports cars. Unbelievable. That, like right there, Sterling Heath, we haven't seen him in SVRA in quite a long time. A longtime friend of mine in that beautiful MGB GT, usually races with VDCA, VRG, so it's really cool to have him out here. But this is a weird class. We've got Group 1, 2, 3, 4, 5B, but I don't think there's any Group 1 or 2 cars here with us this weekend. We missed them. But we've got David Jacobs there in that beautiful Group 5B Chevron B19. And just one of those cars that would have raced back in that Can-Am 2-liter Brian Redmond kind of era of cars. Then Efren Ormaza, who always seems to be here in that Ford Spec Racer, in second place. Then John Nash in that Group 3 Lotus Super 7. Right behind him is Karsten Gregory in a Mazda Miata. And then Alan Schamer, last year's Mazda Miata Heritage Cup Trophy winner in a Mazda MX-5. Robert Riles in a Mazda Miata. Then there's Sterling Heath in that MGB GT. Greg Kimbrough in a World Sports Racer. Ron Fuller in a Datsun 200 SX, the number 78, beautiful car. Richard Taylor III in a Toyota WSR. And then Richard Jemison is in an Alfa Romeo Pininfarina Coupe A.
Well, it wouldn't be a racing weekend unless we had some sort of Alfa Romeo out here, so always glad to be able to see that come out. And, of course, a couple of MX-5s and Miatas as well to add to the spice of everything. A beautiful drone shot overhead here. And I've got to imagine for a lot of these drivers, the slipstream down this back straightaway going to be very, very crucial. As we said, a little less horsepower in these cars, so any bit of that extra speed that you're able to gather up underneath you is going to be absolutely crucial.
Oh, yeah, like Ron Fuller could probably have a snack and check his emails on his phone as he's coming down that back straight, you know. But that's the beauty of these kind of small bore cars, and you've got to really drive them with momentum. Any little bit of steering input can scrub off your time and your power, and it's a lot of fun to watch these cars, especially these Miatas, mixing it up with the cars, the likes of this like Lotus Super 7 there of John Nash or Efren Ormaza in that Ford Spec Racer.
Yeah, exactly. As they now come down through Bennett Bridge Hall, turns 10A and 10B. It's going to be Jacobs and Ormaza up at the front of the grid, ready to lead their way on through. Ginetta safety car makes its way down into pit lane as all eyes go towards the flag stand here at this point. Getting ready to go as there goes the green, and we are racing here in Road Atlanta. And talk about a good getaway there for Efren Ormaza. That is absolutely on it, but the power coming back to David Jacobs as they plunge their way coming down into turn one. It's going to be side by side, but that's going to be Ormaza going for the lead there at that point. Did he get the car slowed down? Yes, he did. I thought he might have overshot the corner.
Yeah, David Jacobs there. I think he saw what Ormaza was doing and just thought, you know, I'm going to live to fight another day. David Jacobs, really good driver, but also nothing against Ormaza, but has a lot more to lose in that Chevron B19. Just a car that, unbelievable car with a lot of history. And Efren Ormaza in that Ford Spec Racer, a huge class in SCCA class racing where sometimes they'd have fields of like 60, 70 cars.
Yeah, a lot of those cars, and now it's going to break out here a little bit as we watch Jacobs working his way back through the corner, and both he and Ormaza really dancing on throttle application and braking there at that point. You can really see that lack of grip in the cars. Probably going to take a little bit to get heat into the tires. It's a relatively blustery day out here at Road Atlanta and a little bit chilly track temps.
Yeah, we were the grid at the Trans Am race. I saw somebody put the thermometer to the track, and it was just 80 degrees. And so it is hard to get heat in the tires as we look at John Nash coming down that main straight. But Jacobs was kind of closing the gap on Ormaza. But look at John Nash, loves racing here with us. Lorna, his wife, is always there, maybe more enthusiastic than John himself, but look at that car. I love watching the Lotus 7s because you can see them move the steering wheel and the wheels move with it. It's just a lot of fun. Almost an open wheel car is the 7.
Yeah, it really is, and it's a gorgeous piece of machinery. As you said, very Spartan in the way that it's laid out. Very, very pretty. As we take a look now at Karsten Gregory in that number 18 Mazda Miata, working his way down through turn 1. Not the most aggressive line through the corner. I've seen some drivers really chuck those things in there, but I think Karsten probably feeling pretty good in P4 right now. He's the second place here in that Group 3 entry, obviously in a different subclass than John Nash up in that Lotus Super 7.
There's Chalmer, last year's Miata champion. Usually races here with us in Atlanta, was with us just a few weeks ago there at Sebring, but really smooth in these Mazda Miatas.
Well, and that smoothness is such a key when you talk about bringing your way through. I mean, they're such momentum cars. You can't afford to scrub any speed, and the same is true here with Sterling Heath and that number 81 MGB GT. I mean, you just have to be so millimeter perfect. If you scrub even a little bit of speed coming through those corners, especially like a corner that's turn 7, you're going to lose that speed all the way down the straight.
Yeah, you got to carry enough speed through there because it sets you up for this. And, you know, with that 1800cc engine of the MGB GT, that's, you know, you don't have a lot of that torque and power, so you've got to every little bit that you can get. Sterling, longtime racer here at Road Atlanta. His dad Stan races an MGA with us too, and it's really cool to see him back here. I haven't seen him at an SVRA event in quite a long time, but really good racer. I think he lives down in Tampa, Florida now, and has started a family, so it's cool to see him out here in this MGB GT.
Yeah, that's always good, especially I know plenty of folks, you start a family, you got to stop spending money on your toys, and you got to buy, you know, plastic and wood toys for your kids. You can't necessarily use it on the steel or the aluminum or the carbon fiber that you used to. But continuing to go back down through the field here at this point, I believe this is the number 14 of Robin Riles right now, falling down a couple of positions, but a Mazda Miata there with the hood obviously cut off the top of it.
Yeah, it seems like that would be the more efficient way to race a Miata, but the Spec Series, I think they make you have the hardtop Miata to run it, which I like. I like the Spec Series classes like that because then you really get a driver's class.
Yeah, and that's really what you talk about when you talk about those Spec Series. But then as we continue to look our way through the field, the 00 here, again, Greg Kimbrough in that World Sports Racer, silver and yellow, very reminiscent of the old Audis, the R18s that used to, or the R8s that used to run back in the day, with that livery and the yellow splashes on there, and of course the open car, open cockpit sort of prototype design, very, very reminiscent of that. That's what my mind goes to when I see that car.
Yeah, it does. I bet you that's what he was doing. It's kind of like a tribute. And then there is that 78, should be, right? Or is it the 68? Ron Fuller, number 68, sorry, is the Group 3 BSL, the Datsun 200SX. He usually brings that car to this event, and that is a really cool car to have out here. I'm sure a lot of the commenters on YouTube remember those cars, and they're a lot more common in the street than race cars, so I love it sometimes when the drivers back in that day, they would just kind of make anything into a race car, but a lot of people probably went with their moms or dads to pick up the groceries in those Datsun 200SXs.
Well, and that's the old kind of style of racing. You bring what you brought to the track, and likewise, the flip of it, it's the old adage, win on Sunday, buy on Monday. And so if you're able to do that and have that kind of play back and forth, it'll be absolutely perfect there to be able to do that as they go. Ron Fuller in that machine right now as he makes his way up and over Bennett Bridge Hall, turn 10A and B, and down into that massive story drop of 11. Looks like a little bit of a bob of the head. Is he maybe putting some metal music on in that
I don't know. I think maybe he's just like, where's this speed? You know how they do in the go-karts? They try to jump up and get some speed. But, yeah, I haven't ever seen that before. That's the 477 Richard Taylor III. That's the Toyota WSR. That's a Group 5B car.
And I remember a story back in the day of Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. racing at one point next to each other, kind of doing that go-kart move to try to will their cars on forward. I'm not sure if it has the same effect here when you're running with this much horsepower, but it's got to feel good to do it. It gives you that kind of psychosomatic way of thinking about it.
When you're on such a long straightaway, I think you have to feel like you're doing something.
Exactly. And just slamming down that foot pedal sometimes isn't enough necessarily as he brings his way on through, down through the Cube 3S's here at this point. Good sight lines there that he's getting. You could really get a sense. That's why I love some of these older open cockpit cars. You can see that lean. You can physically see the G-forces on the car. As he continues to work his way down through here at this point, checking the mirrors, down to the inside, making sure everybody's there so he can be able to go on through. Almost look for a second, like I think it may have just been his safety belts, but something flapping around. And there's the Alpha as it makes its way down into Bennett Bridge Hall, turn 10A and B.
The Coupe, we've been having trouble with this driver. He went off early in test day and didn't have a rear tow hook, and it looks like he's still having some problems. He was able to put a rear tow hook on, but I can't tell if he was coming into pit lane. It looks like, yeah, he is ducking into pit lane, so that's Richard Jameson in that Group 3 Alfa Romeo coming into pit lane. Hopefully he can get that thing up and running for tomorrow's races.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be able to do that and get that back up around. But let's take another look here at your leader right now. David Jacobs, Efren Ormaza. I was looking at the wrong screen there. No, David Jacobs is being scored as in the lead of the race here. I think David got around him.
Yeah,
yes,
he did. Yeah.
So there, what was foretold, I guess you could say, in the qualifying session. David just kind of took his time, waited to get on by Efren Ormaza, and he got the pass done. Well done for that Chevron B19.
A lot more tire on that Chevron B19, so he probably, it took him a little bit longer to hook up, and but now look for him to really make a big gap here in that beautiful kind of Can-Am 2-liter car. But Efren right behind him again. Look at that. Efren looks like Efren Ormaza might be a little bit more confident here going through the S's, and look for him to make a pass coming out of 7.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really what it was. A lot of times, if you're not as confident in the car going down through the Cube 3S's, you're going to feather that throttle a little bit more. And if you've got full confidence in the car, you can chuck it on through. Let's see, though, coming down the back straightaway here at this point, that draft, as we talked about, still going to go into play there. So that'll be a big thing for them. We'll have to see how they're going to be able to do. Is there we see a couple other drivers working their way on through turn 6 and 7. Oh, look at that gap, though. That is just straight horsepower there for David Jacobs, being able to extend that gap over Efren Ormaza.
So let's see. This might be a handling versus horsepower battle here, because if they're coming into lap traffic as they come around Mission Foods, turn 12, so here we go. Lap traffic there. And they're going to hit it coming through the Cube 3S's.
Yeah, they are. Ormaza's got to be very, very aggressive there to come down to the inside of turn 1. Now, they're going to come up behind that World Sports Racer, that's the Toyota WSR, I believe. They're going to get on through it. That's a little bit of a sketchy proposition to make, but they make it through. And here comes Ormaza on the attack here at this point. I think you're right about this, Ben. I think this is horsepower versus handling.
They take very different lines on the exit of 5 there, coming up into Customers Bank turn 6. And you can see when he gets on the brakes, the car, it looks like his rear brakes are hurting him a little bit there as David Jacobs, his rear end kind of wants to swing out a little bit, so he has to kind of feather the brakes a lot more than Ormaza does.
Yeah, he really does. And I think it's interesting that Ormaza really takes that car all the way to the outside of turn 5, kind of what we'd consider almost more of a prototype line, using the full curbing of that, whereas with Jacobs, he's taking it much narrower, staying off the curbs a little bit. I wonder if that's maybe just again, a comfortability thing, if Ormaza just feels better going over those ripple strips on the exit of 5.
So there we are, back with our leader, David Jacobs, in that Group 5 BNC Chevron B19. Now they have a clean lap ahead of them, it looks like. And there's the gap between the two leaders. Both of them are Group 5B, different categories of 5B, and different decades of cars, but running very similar lap times.
Yeah, running very, very similar lap times. Indeed, the last time they came by, their lap times only separated by about 0.2 of a second in between the two, and their fastest time, well, the fastest time of the race belongs to Efren Ormaza, but let's give a little bit of love back here to John Nash in that Lotus Super 7. No, we can't break away from it. This battle is too intense up for the lead of this race. It is all over here at this point.
So you can see how he uses the wide curbing, like you were saying, and they just flattened out. This is the first time we've been to Road Atlanta with that new flattened out 5 exit, and maybe Ormaza just is a little bit more aware of that than David Jacobs.
Yeah, that could certainly be a thing. I mean, we haven't really talked about all that much the changes that have gone here at Road Atlanta. As here is third place right here. This is John Nash as he works his way on through. A very comfortable position here for Nash. He's got a gap of about 18 seconds over Karsten Gregory for 4th.
But look at how smooth he is through the corners, except for right there, right when I say it, the commentator's curse. But you see how the car is, it's almost like he's got speed wobble when you're on your skateboard coming into the corners. Something's happening with the brakes that I feel like he's not super comfortable with.
Yeah, he just doesn't necessarily feel like he has that car completely underneath him, and I've got to agree with you there about that. But the good news for him, it's not slowing him down too much. He just set the fastest lap of the race with a time of 1:37.587. Ormaza only about 1/10 of a second behind him, and he's only got to hold on for 2 more laps here at this point. Oh, no, excuse me. They're on the white flag lap here at this point. They are on the white flag lap. White flag in the air. David Jacobs only has to hold on for 1 more.
And this is the biggest gap we've seen in a while coming through the S's, but there it is. Look at that. He closes that so quick.
Very, very quick, Ormaza. Now, this is the closest we've seen him really tail in behind, trying to suck up as much of that draft off the 33 as possible. Didn't see that wiggle there out of Jacobs coming down into Customers Bank turn 6. Now as they get on the throttle, that horsepower could come into play again here for Jacobs.
Ormaza's trying everything he can to get in that draft, but look at that gap increasing. There's John Nash, our currently 3rd place, but leader in Group 3.
Yeah, driving a crystal perfect race here at this point, as you said, just nice and smooth through the corners here as he goes. And that's a little bit of a smoother way to do it, as you were hinting at earlier. Now, here comes your leader, David Jacobs. He got jumped at the start of the race, but he came back in flying fashion. He's going to come through turn 12, and it's going to be your pole sitter, David Jacobs, that takes victory. Good stuff there for Jacobs. A little bit of a salute from Efren Ormaza. There it is, the wave from him. An absolutely barn burner of a race between those two. Very, very impressive stuff. And a very, very fun battle here in that Group 5 class. As they keep on their cool-down lap here at this point, the 33A. There's John Nash having to get himself around a little bit of lap traffic in that Datsun that we talked about a little bit earlier. Nash going to bring the car up through the corner. A little bit of counter steer he had to put in on the exit of Bennett Bridge Hall turn 10B. He'll come down and through right now and cross over the start-finish line momentarily. There he goes. and he's got the third place there. Brilliant stuff for Nash. Nice, calm, cool, collected drive. Exactly what you'd expect out of him. A couple more drivers still waiting to finish here at this point. Not all that many left on this 2.5 mile circuit. As there you see the overall view as our race winners make their way down the back straightaway right now, bringing their way on through. And that is going to finish up the coverage here for Group 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5B. My name's been DJ Clark. This has been Ben Sissel next to me. We're going to go to a quick commercial break, but we'll be back shortly.
Okay, so pretend this is your race car. It's on the trailer, and you have an accident. Ouch! At least your truck's insurance will pay for another one? Yeah, not so fast. Standard insurance won't replace your race car, whether it's in the trailer, in the paddock, in the garage, or the repair shop. But at Hagerty, we can protect it for what it's really worth anytime it's off the track. No matter what or where you race, all for less than a set of race tires. Hagerty, let's drive together.
Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Mission Foods Road Atlanta Speed Tour. This is going to be a ton of fun. This is our split grid race 1, Group 10, but we have Group 10 SVRA, but then we have this vintage stock car series that my friend Jim Barfield, Carlos Gann, a lot of our drivers have kind of put together, Scott Hawley, and this is going to be a lot of fun. The first car there we're seeing is the number 22 of Ryan Gamel in the Group 10 stock car. I'm not sure where Front Row Joe is. Usually Front Row Joe is out there. Then we've got Joseph Burke there in that number 48 Lowe's Jimmy Johnson car. So driving the Jimmy Johnson car is Joseph Burke in the Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS. I love the Jimmy Johnson in the livery. Now, you will see the stock cars as they were run at some point in their life. I believe that's the rules that Carlos Gann and Jim Barfield have kind of put forward to everybody, that a lot of these cars were run under different teams, different liveries, but they have to pick one of the liveries that they were in back in the day. That's Jack Finch there in that Dodge Charger, the Group 10 SCE car. Then here's my favorite, the Cole Trickle car. Check this out. So we have a resident expert here, Will Rogers, who was just with us in the Trans Am races. He raced with us at Thunder Hill 2 weeks ago. Probably our resident expert in the stock car field, but coming from Mooresville, that was the Cole Trickle car from Days of Thunder. So not truly a NASCAR car, but what do you think of that thing?
That's pretty cool. I actually live down the street from the barn where in the movie they were building that car. So, you know, it resembles it for sure. It's a really cool, iconic paint scheme. Really neat to see out here at Road Atlanta today.
Yeah, it is. And I'll admit something that I always admit. So if you're watching us from YouTube, and this is your chance to kind of yell at the commentators, or if you have some great information, please leave us in the comments. But that is the car. Like, I really wasn't into racing, didn't know anything about it until I went and saw Days of Thunder in the theater. This is going to age me my 8th grade year. And I went to see it and just kind of fell in love with it. And then back in the day, Hardee's, if you went through Hardee's and you got like their version of the Happy Meal, you got a free Days of Thunder car. So there is Front Row Joe starting in the back there in his pickup truck, the Chevy Silverado. So that's something that we're trying to do here in Vintage, just to make it more fun, is he's Front Row Joe in NASCAR. But when Front Row Joe starts from the back row in SVRA, it makes for some very interesting racing.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I bet Front Row Joe will make his name in this series for sure. He'll be coming from the back to the front, no doubt. Looks like a truck that his son may have won in back at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park years ago. At least resembles it. So it's pretty cool to see that legacy moving on and even coming back to the racetrack as his son's racing NASCAR full-time. So pretty cool to see.
Yeah, there's Carlos Gann there in the Ricky Rudd NASCAR, and then in the Wiki car is Rick Frazier there. And so that kind of, I'll go through as Joe, it's Ryan Gamel, Joseph Burke, Jack Finch, Ryan Thompson, Rodney Reston. What a great name for a stock car driver.
Oh, yeah.
Scott Frazier, Carlos Gann, Rick Frazier, Joe Frieda, and then Joe Nemechek. That kind of is our stock car group. And Joe Frieda in a Group 10 GT4 Chevrolet Corvette C6. Blaze Chita is in the Ford Mustang TA2 car that you'll know a lot about. Tadas Karlinskis is in the Porsche GT3 Cup car. Ariel Offgang in a Porsche Cayman. So we've got two different kind of Cup cars. We've got the Winston Cup cars, and then we've got the Porsche Cup cars. Randy Walker in a Chevrolet Camaro. Richard Manis in a Porsche Cayman. Jack Gilsdorf in a Porsche GT3 Cup car. Mark Mercurio in this Howe Camaro. It looks like a TA2 car, but for some reason we can't classify it, and you know quite a bit about that.
Yep.
Bob Corliss in a Porsche GT3 Cup car, and Steve Denton here in a Porsche Cayman. So are you excited to see these stock cars take the grid?
Absolutely. I mean, seeing these older stock cars, even some of the new ones, rip around here at Road Atlanta, I think is going to be a treat for sure. But as far as the split grid goes here, you couldn't have different kind of cars on the racetrack farther apart than these. And I think it'll be really neat to see how these laps play out and what the field does. But I'm anticipating these stock cars to be really cool to see running around Road Atlanta.
You can see Jimmy Johnson there kind of weaving back and forth. There's Casey Kane in that car of tomorrow. I always love that. They call it the car of tomorrow, and it soon disappeared.
It did. It's funny how those evolutions come and go really quickly, it seems, and now we're into something all new on the NASCAR side, but rolling to the green flag here.
Yeah, here they come, side by side. Ryan Gamel, Joseph Burke, side by side as they come here to take the green. Who's going to take it here? I'm kind of hoping for Jimmy Johnson there, 7-time champion. Look at that, though, man. Side by side as they come into Mission Foods Turn 1. It looks like they don't know what yet they want to do, but there we go. Jimmy Johnson on the outside of Mission Foods Turn 1 over Gamel, but it looks like he has the advantage coming up. Ooh, gosh, hold on to it there. What are you seeing, Will Rogers?
Oh my gosh, what I initially saw was the start. They held it really long. I didn't know what the heck was going on. The green flag was out and nobody was going, and then they took off. Jimmy Johnson got a little out of shape there, but glad he could hang on to it.
Yeah, that was a good save there as Blaze Chitta coming up right behind in the Mission Foods turn 1. And then Mercurio, there's that Howe looking like a TA2 car, but for some reason we're not allowed to classify it as a TA2 car. I don't know what the difference is there. But Ryan there in that Ford Mustang out ahead there of Jimmy Johnson. And how would you classify that car there, the number 22 of Ryan Cannell? It looks like kind of a modern stock car.
It does, yeah. It's like the past gen. I think the COT, Car of Tomorrow, kind of like what you were saying earlier. That's what I would most recognize that as. And then, of course, the car behind him, a few generations older, but he seems to have a good handle on that thing. Aero platforms between the two, I think, are drastically different. So interesting to see how they get around this course.
There was Joe Frieda there, but look, Jimmy Johnson getting sideways there, coming into the Bennett Bridge Hall 10 turn 10A. Something must be happening with his car. Maybe he's just trying to push it a little bit too hard there.
Maybe. This place is pretty slick today, though. The temperatures are down, but when you start pushing these rear tires with all these loads through these high speed corners and such, it could be really easy to step out, especially with a super heavy stock car like that. These things definitely have more power than a TA2 car and certainly more weight up high. So I can only imagine what it's like as he kind of locks it up, getting up on top of the hill, but that's to be expected.
And just like you said, there's Joe Nemechek behind, but we've got the big three out in the top three. We've got a Dodge, a Chevy, and a Ford in the top three. Can't say that in today's NASCAR.
No, you certainly can't. Pretty cool to see the Dodge still out there. We have them on the TA and TA2 side and the XGT side, so neat to see that as we see Front Row Joe coming back up to the field. Like I said, I think he's going to live up to his name today.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. And what's funny about Joe Nemechek, and sometimes Bill Elliott will join us, they have so much fun. Ray Evernham has joined us in this. They have so much fun doing this because, Bill Elliott was like, I don't have to go to McDonald's and sign autographs the day before the race or anything like that. Or Joe Nemechek, is just having so much fun getting to do this. And he's out there now in that Chevy Silverado that I do believe John Hunter may have raced. And then there's Cole Trickle, the Tom Cruise car from Days of Thunder. And I just think I love the livery. Last year we had the Ricky Bobby car, and they had I think Fig Newton or Wonder Bread on the windshield when he was driving it. But that car just looks so sharp. Jim told me they were making it, and I was so excited to see it here this weekend. That's
really cool. I would be really curious to know what it was like to have the decal on the front windshield running around the racetrack like that, like Days of Thunder, or like the other movie. But it's kind of silly. But I like seeing all these old cars as we see Casey Kane go up through turn 1, headed up to the top of the hill before the S's. That car looks pretty sweet too.
And that's Rodney Reston there. But look at this, the Chevy Lumina. I like this era of NASCAR. Grew up kind of in that era of NASCAR. And then that's the Kellogg's number 5. Who would that have been?
I think it's Casey Kane, right?
No, Casey Kane would be the number 9 car of tomorrow. So that a Labonte? Is that
perhaps?
Terry
Yeah,
Labonte?
forgive me. I haven't become a NASCAR fan, not for a long time. Racing go-karts and off-road and such. I was never into NASCAR until I got into living near Mooresville and such. So I'm a little behind your time, Ben.
No, that's all right. But I'm sure that we've got some commenters on here that would know who that is. The Kellogg's number 5 car.
Would love to know that. Absolutely. It's a sweet looking ride, though. I think it'd be hard to miss him out there.
There's Casey Kane there in the Budweiser number 9.
Okay.
And then that's the Hooters car of Kawicki.
Yep.
And then followed by these Group 10.
We got Front Row Joe making a close in for the lead here. He's got about the same out front as out back on P3. Really tracking down that car of tomorrow out front. Driver Ryan Gemmel.
Yeah, some great visuals here. You can
I
see
think
that Cole Trickle car from high above.
I think the 5 would be the Kyle Busch car. Somebody's saying 2005, 2007 era.
That's
perhaps
Dev. So thank you for that. Yeah, see, we've got all kinds of experts on here. And if you watch motorsports, you're like, oh, you want to yell at the commentators. So this is their chance. Feel free, have at it.
Yell at us.
There's Mark Mercurio there. And, Will, I was just with you at Thunder Hill where you also had to start from the back, just like Front Row Joe, and you moved your way to win overall in a TA2 bodied XGT car from Chris Evans, and that's very similar to these cars we're seeing.
Oh, absolutely. They are these XGT cars that I'm very, very thankful to be driving out west with Chris Evans and Jeff Jefferson and that team. They are badass machines. They may look like a TA2 car, but man, what I tell everybody is that it is a TA2 car with everything you want in a TA2, but you may not be able to have because of the classification. You get big motors like a lot of these stock cars have, a solid Ford 9-inch rear end in the thing, and obviously an Andrews transmission to make it all work really good. As we see front row Joe now making a move for the lead into turn 1.
Yeah, that's awesome. He's having so much fun. That's Jack Gilsdorf here in that 902 Porsche GT3 Cup car. All kinds of Cup cars out here in this race that we're seeing. And it's funny because when you come to an SVRA event, people refer to Cup car, and then I might be thinking like NASCAR Cup car, and they're talking about a Porsche Cup car. So you almost have to make that delineation. But we do have a TA2 car and a TA2 owner of Blaze Chitta out there with us this weekend. And here comes Jimmy Johnson up behind. That's he's in this little Cayman there. That's the number 7 of Richard Manis with Jimmy Johnson behind. And you got to think Richard Manis looks in his mirror like, what in the world is behind me right now?
No, absolutely. It's got to be an interesting scene, but probably a pretty cool one if he's into the old school NASCAR history.
And look at that, the Lowe's car. And I love back in this day, if you were a Jimmy Johnson fan, you'd never go to Home Depot because that was Tony Stewart. You know, if you were a Tony Stewart fan, you'd never go to Lowe's. And you'd drive, 10 or 15 miles out of the way not to go to Lowe's. So that was just kind of how NASCAR was back in those days.
It still is. There's still a lot of avid fans, and you'll have that rivalry come up, and even fans where a sponsor changes on their favorite driver's car, and you know what? They're not going to use that sponsor anymore. I can tell you that. So there's really something to it. As front row Joe is checked out, and Gemmel takes the access road on the end towards the
pit.
Towards the pit.
Look at the Silverado. You can see that the lines, it looks like that body may have been set up for more of a short track oval, and they've turned it into like a road race because
honestly,
you can see it's oblong.
I'd say that's a 1.5 mile truck that they've redone here. They may have pushed the body back a little bit, but at a Martinsville or something like that, you'll have more of a road course kind of straight up body, but that thing has some skew in it, and I bet it's run around a place like Charlotte or Kansas or something high speed, a Chicagoland to stick that tail out, catch the air, and drive right off the corner. So that's pretty wild to see that intermediate truck looking
you can see it even tracking a little bit oblong there.
Yep. I can only imagine they've probably got a straight up rear end in the thing. When you're running on a circle track, you want to add skew and essentially move the rear tires forward or backwards to help it get around the corner. But you're only turning left there, so on a road course, you want to make sure it's as straight up as possible. I bet if I were Joe behind the wheel going down the backstretch here at Road Atlanta, I'd be feeling some of that air pulling me one way or another.
Yeah. That was Bob Corliss there in that number 17 Porsche GT3 Cup car.
Yep.
And we're looking at great images here from our drone high above our Mission Foods Road Atlanta Speed Tour.
I think it's so cool to see these 996 and 993, version Cup cars out here, 997 as well. In fact, there might be some newer ones as well. Just great to see they're still running and in this very interesting mix of class, but glad they're still out there. Those are great platforms on the sports car side. I've had a chance to run a few of them, and they're a ball.
Yeah. Yeah, they turn, with these stock car Cup cars, these Porsche Cup cars turn about the same lap times, but in completely different ways.
Oh my gosh, yeah, these cars, their characteristics, the platform, obviously the big obvious is the motor in the back in the Porsche versus the stock car in the front and a huge rear end in the back. They drive polar opposite.
Yeah.
Porsche, I would say, is super nimble, right? And you really have to drive around that rear weight, but a stock car, although you have to finesse, you have to be smooth, you really go about getting in the corner a completely different way.
Yeah, the Mission Foods Turn 1, the Porsche Cup cars are hitting at about the 100 brake marker, and some of these stock cars are at the 500 brake marker.
Oh, yeah, and that's cooking it in there, depending on the brake packages. If Joe Nemechek, if he had a short track package on there, he could get pretty deep. If he's got an intermediate package on there, he's going to have to brake way earlier than that. But you're right. Those Porsches and some of these other road race specific cars, they can drive very far into the corner. Not unlike our TA2 cars. We get in really deep, even though it is a quote-unquote stock car.
So it looks like Joe Frieda there in the number 122 is coming up behind Joe Nemechek. This might be our overall 1 and 2. Not quite sure. I believe it is. So this is going to be a battle. And Joe Nemechek, if you know him, even though they're not in the same class or they're not even racing each other, Joe Nemechek does not like to be passed.
No, and I just saw that myself. TV may have not seen that, but Joe Nemechek, I don't know if he knew that 122 is coming up behind him, because he did not let him through turn 1. So I'm sure there would be another attempt here.
He will not let anybody pass. Now it's on.
That's right.
Hopefully we stay with this. So that's front row Joe Nemechek, just NASCAR royalty out there. I believe in his son, John Hunter Nemechek's truck, I guess it is, the Chevy Silverado.
Sure looks like it, yeah.
And then that would be Joe Frieda in what looks like a GT1 car, but does it say GT4 there on the hood?
Hard to tell, but the thing is ripping. I mean, he's got a real good handle on that thing. Probably took a minute for the tires to come up, just like in the TA or XGT cars that I'm running out west. Once they come up, man, they're great tires, and they stick. So I'm sure as he looks to make a move on Joe on the back here, let's see if he can do a little side draft. Nope. Looks like Joe's probably going to give it up and let him go. Realize he's digging.
That car is cutting a little bit better hole through the air than that big truck.
I think so. I'm sure he could have probably poked in that draft and picked up about 5 or 10 miles an hour with the hole that truck punches through the air.
So now it looks like Joe Frieda is our overall leader in a Chevrolet Corvette C6 in 10 GT4. Yeah, that is classified as a GT4 car. Coming through Mission Foods turn 1. And Joe Frieda, you now get to brag to your friends that you have made a good pass on front row Joe Nemechek.
That's pretty sweet. I think we could put that on a plaque. Maybe they'll hang it in the old game room and reminisce on that one. That's pretty cool. Good stats.
Look at that in that Chevy Silverado. And it was kind of neat. It threw me for a loop. A couple years ago, we had our first NASCAR Cup truck race, Craftsman Truck Race Series truck with us. And for a while, it took me a while to get used to seeing it. But now they're fast, and they belong out there. It was Mike Skinner that brought the first one to Sebring with us.
Okay.
And he knows how to run those things.
Sebring in a cup car or a truck, I think that would be quite the experience. But it's really cool to see these cars, as we've said, out here all together, because I've had multiple fans come up to me over the time of racing in NASCAR and such, and they say, well, why don't we run the classes together, Cup, trucks, Xfinity, and obviously there's the different classifications, some different rules, but I have always been curious, like, what would it be like? Yeah. And this is kind of cool to see. I've had buddies that I've raced on iRacing with, and we have a multi-class and have the 3 cars. It's very interesting when that happens, but this is real life. It's pretty neat to see this happen.
That's Jack Finch there, our 3rd place car, the number 49. That's a Dodge Charger. That's a Group 10 Stock Car E classification. I'm hoping we get some shots of the Ricky Rudd car out there with Carlos Gann, the number 15, but I don't know, is he still out there?
To be completely honest, I wouldn't be able to recognize it, Ben. Again, that one's before my time, I think.
I just love the era of the metal bumpers of when the cars actually kind of looked like they did from the factory. I love that.
Yep.
There's Blaze Chitta in the TA2 car that you were basically on track with just a couple hours ago.
Yeah, I mean, these TA2 cars, they are a lot of fun around this place. They are not easy to run around here. So he's doing a great job holding on to this thing and keeping up probably with a lot more horsepower in front of him. But if he can cut through the corners better, brake a little bit deeper, hopefully the drive that, he kind of loses down the straightaway won't be too much, and he can stay right there with him.
And that rear wing, really helps. But there is the Ricky Rudd car. Check that thing out.
That's
Motorcraft. That's Carlos Gann, who kind of puts this whole thing on. The Ford Thunderbird.
It's like a Wood Brothers scheme.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
And but like I said, it does look like a Ford Thunderbird of that day.
It sure does.
And Ricky Rudd, what a great NASCAR name. We have a guy that races with us in SVRA called Ricky Knuckles, and that's his true name. Man, you missed your call, and you should have been a NASCAR driver. But that's Ricky Rudd being driven by Carlos Gann. Beautiful car there.
Looks like our overall leader just took the white flag, as Joe Nemechek also runs through the white flag there. The rest of the field coming through.
So, ladies and gentlemen, you are joining Will Rogers and Ben Sissel here in the booth at Mission Foods Road Atlanta Speed Tour. Will Rogers just got out of his TA2 car, and I'm glad that you got out of your TA2 car.
Me too.
You had a little, what was it, last lap debacle?
It was a little bit of a debacle, a little bit of a fight over track position, running for 10th. And, you know, this is a new team that I'm with, Godwin Motorsports, and we've taken on one heck of a challenge jumping into this TA2 series. But my guys and myself, we put on a lot of hard work this weekend to contend for top 10. So happy that happened, but unfortunate way to end the weekend. We just too much asking for available track position and got shoved off and put into the tire wall. So you know, it's part of racing, and we'll come back at NOLA and hopefully still contend for that top 10, maybe better.
It happens, but you know, I expect you to be on TV a lot with us in the Q3 Architecture TA2 series. So you're looking for sponsorship, people can look at you, but we're watching right now Joe Frieda come up through 10A, 10B as he comes down to take the checkered flag in this mixed group of Group 10 with our stock car, vintage stock car group. So happy to have them out here. But Joe Frieda takes the checkered flag. It looks like Joe Nemechek is going to come up right behind him in that Chevy Silverado. But, you know, Will, you're with Godwin Motorsports out of Nashville, Tennessee, looking for sponsorship, want to run the whole series for the championship. Is that correct? That's
correct, yeah. We ran in some sports car racing last year and, you know, decided that for me, coming from more stock cars recently, it made more sense to go TA2, and I've realized how competitive this series is and how much investment is going in. Honestly, this is the place to be if you want to race against the best, you know, be in a fairly even playing field equipment-wise. Still work to do on our part to get better at that, but you know, this is really where I see the future, and it's great to be. And we're hoping to finish this season strong. Yes, working on some sponsorship and such. We had some great guests with us this weekend, and just looking forward to the future. So thankful and happy to be here.
Nice. Well, we're happy to have you. I mean, you've been in the paddock with us in Trans Am for what, 1.5, 2 seasons, something like that, running with us on the West Coast and the XGTs, but yeah.
It's been great. My time in TA2 or TA, the class or the series, has been really great. Really enjoy it, and you know, looking forward to more.
Well, looks like we're going to see some great highlights here. As we see there's the Jimmy Johnson we were talking about, going off a little bit wide, but what a great save. And then this is the start of our Group 10. Blaze Chitta there, almost getting up behind Joe Frieda, but there's Joe Nemechek coming around Customer's Bank to take the lead that he didn't hold very long. There's Kyle Busch and that number 5 of Rodney Reston. And then Joe Nemechek coming through the S's. It's so cool to see that. There is Bob Corliss there in the number 17 Porsche Cup cars versus Winston Cup cars. And then there is our overall leader there, Joe Frieda, as he makes that pass.
Pass for the win.
Totally different lines here, but Joe Frieda takes the win in Group 10. Well, Will Rogers, so much fun to have you out. So excited to see what happens with you and Godwin Motorsports out of Nashville, Tennessee. But that does it here for our Mission Foods Road Atlanta Speed Tour. Thanks for joining us up here in the booth.
Thank you very much for having me, Ben. Really appreciate it. Looking forward to doing more.
Nice, and we will see everybody tomorrow.
Taking on the challenge, moving ahead. It's about going further, faster. At Customers Bank, we know that great things happen when you combine the best of technology with a deeply human touch. So we offer a wide range of personal, small business, and commercial banking solutions with outstanding personal service, giving you the edge you need to take on tomorrow.